Hello! You've
Hello.
seen Canadian tea time. This is now regular tea time once again. I'm back. It is extremely warm, okay? I'm melting. We're all melting here, and it's only going to get worse. But the good news is we have a lot to talk about today. We've got a lot of Guild Wars-related things. Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 3, Guild Wars card game, Mistbound situation. I'm seeing people spam the card game emote. Definitely very appropriate. And look, I don't have to shave my head, guys. I said I would shave my head if they announced the card game instead of Guild Wars 3. And well, look, they did announce the card game as well, but it was after Guild Wars 3, so it doesn't count. What is this tea time about? It wasn't actually initially about the card game. Don't worry, we are going to talk a little bit about Mistbound probably after we get through the main topics. But what I really want to talk about, and you can see by the title of the video, is I kind of want to talk a little bit about like what Guild Wars 3 actually is, right? There's been a lot of discussion about it. Like, is it going to be, you know, like a lobby style game? Is it going to be an MMORPG? Is it going to be Guild Wars 2.2, Guild Wars 2.5? What's going to happen to Guild Wars 2, that kind of stuff. And well, this topic was actually a little bit prompted by a conversation I actually had with one of our amazing guests today. It's going to be Phandrel, a first time TeaTime member. Look, it's been a long time coming, but it's not my fault. You started streaming after I stopped doing TeaTime, okay? So it's not my fault that you haven't been on here, okay? It is actually your fault for streaming too late or too early, I guess, like when I restarted TeaTime. So, like, it is what it is, like, you know, depending how you look at that. And we've also got Nike as well on board here. We'll have some, I think, big opinions. You know, I wanted to get some of these takes here because, of course, I know that players are, you know, disappointed that there's no Char, right? That's going to be a topic that we talk about today. No Sylvari as well, perhaps. There's a lot of copium about Sylvari, a lot of copium about Char. And I think, you know, I also definitely want Nike's input on, there's also people who kind of are disappointed that Guild Wars 3 just isn't Guild Wars 2, but, you know, Guild Wars 2.2, and that's something I really want to dig into there as well. But to kind of start us off, I think I'll actually give the stage to Phandrel here to maybe give us a bit of a recap of what we talked about the other day, and perhaps some of the concerns that you have, because I think you're a little bit apprehensive regarding Guild Wars 3, and that's fair. And yeah, that's what I'm actually really excited to talk about. Like, you know, obviously over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about people who are like foaming at the mouth at the thought of Guild Wars 3. So I actually do want to have some takes, some opinions on here that are potentially a little bit more concerned regarding the future of the franchise. So yeah, go ahead and open us up after my very long monologue there.
I mean, I have two takes that each warrant probably their win discussion, right? We've had the one where I talked to you about already on your previous stream, where, I don't know, I'm concerned, I'll put it bluntly, when there is a question in a Q&A that is planned and scripted. How are you going to solve meta events when Guild Wars 3 comes out? Which clearly hints at, will there be enough players? Will every meta work? And I'm not even thinking Dragon's End. I'm thinking something like Eparch, you know, the Assault on the Citadel already nobody is doing, despite being like kind of a nuts one in terms of potential rewards. Like, I would have been put at ease if like, you know, it was Colin, I think, if he was just have said, okay, look, we'll tackle that as it comes. We are ready to scale health, or, you know, maybe cut out a little event here and there to make it work. What I wasn't prepared for was the answer, well, we expect millions of players to flock towards Guild Wars 2. Which, especially at launch, like, I could be I am probably going to be wrong, because like half my speculations are always off. There is no way when Guild Wars 3 releases, not everybody first flocks to the new game. New players will play the new game for sure. And even fans, like, when I check my community, a lot of people are on a break, have been on a break for weeks. They came back with the latest update and they're on a break kind of again, because they've been kind of burnt out on the current content. So yeah, like what the plan is for Guild Wars 2, I do think the game will thrive, but I don't think they need to like just hope that everything is gonna work out, especially for anything that requires either a group, so large scale events, or where you want to find people. I don't know what raids will look like, for example, once they came out. Like, you'll have friends doing them together, yeah, but like, I don't know, will the DLFG work just as well? Will the communities keep existing? Like, I know everybody's gonna say yes right now, and I guess creators have like a bit of a benefit to say yes. But I don't know. Like, does and I hope so. But like, does a void launch exist in 3 years from now, in its current form or not? Especially if Guild Wars 3 doesn't kind of cater to the content Guild Wars 2 caters. And then, well, my second one, I'm gonna tack this on, but we probably want to dissect these. Is I've always been scared that the news of a new MMO launch, that there won't be enough content. If you remember Guild Wars 2 launching, it was very simple, right? If you were a World v World PvP player, the game was actually nuts. 2 weekly updates in World v World, the ESL in PvP, and in Open World, we were running around Frostgorge, Queensdale, and or in one circle, killing the 7 same champions at a time. And that worked in 2012, but I don't think that works in 2026 when there are so many games, basically. That's my 2 main concerns.
Okay. And I think those are pretty interesting concerns. I think particularly about the raid one as well, because I think the question is like, will there be additional content for raid-oriented players down the line? Because like I was thinking about that when you said that, I was like, okay, well, I think all of these communities will continue to exist in some form or another as long as more content keeps getting added, right? And I think that's really the name of the game. Like, ArenaNet have confirmed that there are going to be expansions for Guild Wars 2 after Guild Wars 3's release. I'd imagine what's going to happen is Guild Wars 3 will release, and then pretty soon after, like, Guild Wars 2 will get back into the swing of things and release an expansion as well. But the question is what does that expansion actually look like? So, like, is it going to have the raid content that these ones currently have? Like, if that's the case, then yeah, I think the community will continue to exist. Like, what about PvP, right? Are they going to try to keep the PvP population up? They are adding a new world versus world borderland, and I think that actually is one of the things that I think could be considered to be very encouraging. Like, they are looking to actually like continue to update these game modes that aren't just like the story and aren't just the open world that's going on there as well. But I think we definitely need to know about like what their roadmap is, like what their long-term plans are for Guild Wars 2. Like, is it going to be very similar to what we have now, or will there be changes after the release of Guild Wars 3? It's a pretty interesting question, I think. Like, and you know, oh yeah, go ahead.
I will bet you. I'll throw it out here now.
Yep.
Come back in 2028.
Yep.
Mark my words. That the key selling point feature of the first of the new Guild Wars 2 expansions, when they fire back up, is sidekick hero sort of thing.
Oh yeah, you think like a helper will follow you around?
You have a fully customizable little buddy with whatever ascended equipment you want to put on them, skills, you know, on the skill bar. They'll follow you around. They'll have a little AI, and it'll make it easier for events to happen because they probably won't be usable in instances, but you know, you're at Octavine, you'll at least have like, you know, double the amount of players.
Yeah. So someone can help you with the Octave. Well, I mean, think about it. They're an NPC, so they'll probably just one burn. Like, they'll actually go for the... They'll have to, yeah. They won't be able to
I'll call target on it, and my NPC will go ham.
Exactly. They will not be... they won't be holding any DPS. They'll be full sending it. I think a feature like that would honestly be pretty good, right? In a way, like, a feature like that would also really help with, I think, open world players in particular. Because think about it. You could basically have... Oh, let's say you're playing a build that doesn't do any boons, but you can have a little helper that will give you all the boons, right? You could have like a little troubadour following you around, just like playing the instruments and just juicing you up and healing you and stuff. So that would be kind of interesting if they did go in that direction, for sure. But actually, yeah, like I certainly think they are not going to look. I mean, the thing is, when it comes to this concern, I don't see and I guess maybe I kind of want Phandrel to explain this to me a little bit. Like, I really don't see ArenaNet dropping support for Guild Wars 2. Like, I don't see it going below what we have now, or like, you know, within reason. Like, maybe it changes a little bit. Maybe some developers get moved off 2 onto 3. I can definitely imagine that reality happening here, but I just can't imagine it. Like, it makes no sense. Like, they very clearly regret what happened with Guild Wars 1, right? And, you know, they're trying to rectify that mistake now by bringing, you know, trying to expand that team and getting some developers hard at work on making some Guild Wars 1 content. It seems like they are very, very committed to running all 3 of these games at the same time. And Guild Wars 2 is doing well. Like, Guild Wars 2 is making good money. If you look at the quarterly reports, right, that we have out there, like, the years are good, right? And like, you know, you can say that, okay, well, maybe the PvP scene is slowly declining. The raid scene is slowly declining. That is true, but that's been true for a long time, right? Like, this is not like a new thing. I don't think Guild Wars 3 is necessarily going to change that that much. That's just because that at the end of the day, that's because Guild Wars 2 doesn't release enough content in order to like really keep those especially the raid player bases. Like, it doesn't release enough to keep like a large player base like that actually engaged long term with the game. Like, whereas it does, you know, they can, you know, it does with like open world and story, but at the end of the day, like, if you're a raid player maining Guild Wars 2, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, right? Like, if you're a PvP player, like, the population issues mean that like maining Guild Wars 2 PvP is going to be a little bit rough, to be completely honest with you, right? Like, over time, because it's not a game mode that's like a super high priority for ArenaNet. But like, I don't think ArenaNet are going to be like dropping Guild Wars 2 like whatsoever, right? Like, I would not, my expectation like after 3 releases is that we pretty much go back to what we have now. Right, like my dream would be, like, you know, I would say the dream would be is that like the studio expands and it does get, you know, like the 3 announcement does actually get more eyes, right, on the franchise, on Guild Wars as a whole, and you see like a player base increase across the game, and you know, again, I feel like the stats kind of back that up already, right? We saw, and this is a really interesting bit of data, I think, right? This is a super interesting bit of data because ArenaNet said there was a 40% uptick, right, in people logged into Guild Wars 2 post Guild Wars 3 announcement. And that's quietened down a little bit, but not entirely actually. But you know what's super interesting about that? Because when we talked, you were talking about Guild Wars 2 efficiency, which, you know, is one of those numbers that can be a bit like, yeah, you have to be careful with how you interpret it. But what's interesting is that the 40% that ArenaNet gave actually did line up with Steam. Yeah. So like Steam is, I think Steam is actually a pretty good barometer for us for understanding like the health of Guild Wars 2, like as a whole, even though obviously it isn't the entire player base, right? Because of course most players do play on the original client. But yeah, like those Steam numbers look good. And honestly, look, I'll make this prediction. Maybe I'm gonna look insane in a year or two. But to be honest, I see the release of Guild Wars 3 is probably gonna end up being a positive thing for Guild Wars 2 overall. Like I don't know. Like I struggle to see otherwise, to be honest. It's just going to be like a lot more promotion. People are going to try out the games. People are going to try out 3, try out 2, try out 1 as well. You know, maybe look, you can do all of them, right? Like you can be slacking off at work playing Guild Wars 2 on your work PC, and then you can play Guild Wars 1 on your phone on your way back home when you're doing your commute. And then you play Guild Wars 3 on your console at home. Easy. You get your PS5, slam some Guild Wars 3. You're playing all 3 at the same time. It's looking good.
Here's the reality. All this legacy content in Guild Wars 2, get it out of your system while we're doing the HOM. You know how they're going to like slowly phase in the HOM for like everything throughout the game. And like, you know, the first HOM patch is going to only have like vanilla Guild Wars 2 and then so on and so forth. Get that content out of your system now so that like, you know, if in 3 years, you know, the Savannier Shaman meta no longer gets critical mass, that you don't feel bad about it. But the fact is the game's going to be a seasonal game and you're going to play Guild Wars 3. They're going to release a content patch. You're going to play it. You know, you're going to consume it entirely. Then Guild Wars 2 is going to release a content patch. You're going to go back to that, and you're going to play that, and you're going to play the new stuff. You're not going to go back and play EOD metas. You're going to play the new stuff, because once that's done, it'll be time to go to Guild Wars 1 and play the new update on that. And then when you've consumed that, it's going to be time to go back to Guild Wars 3, because they're just about to drop a new content patch. You're always going to be on that new fire. You're not going to have time for the old crap. So deal with it now. Get the whatever that boss in Nios that I have only done once because it was so bad. Get that out of your system now. And enjoy it, because that's it. Once the X packs start coming out, we're done. We're done with all that.
I do think that's actually the ArenaNet goal, to be honest. And that's for me, because I know like I gave 2 doomer takes. Like that's also what I hope happens, by the way. And what you're probably right as well, Teapot, that like, well, if everything goes according to plan, the Guild Wars player base will definitely grow indeed. I think my more negative take on the what about meta events and everything was I hope they just don't hope themselves that things will sort them out. But yeah, like I've said this before, like in an ideal world, every 4 weeks we get a content patch like you described, Nike. Like 4 weeks time for Guild Wars 2, 4 weeks time for Guild Wars 3, and then for Guild Wars 1, which basically means that only the people kind of like me who like to be terminally online will be left waiting, but everybody else probably wouldn't be able to catch up, which I do think is a better model than right now. Well, Guild Wars 2 is already a seasonal game, right? Like whether we want to admit it or not, everybody's been blasting PoE 2 when the new league started. I know when WoW like drops a new patch, everybody is going to WoW forever. Surprise a lot of people. Like we're already there. I think it's for ArenaNet way better that they remain within the ArenaNet ecosystem rather than potentially. I don't want to call it escaping, but seeing that there are other franchises they like and spending their time on that franchise.
Yeah,
I fully agree there, to be honest. Like I think, and I hope that will be the result.
Yeah, I think the seasonal thing is really interesting because ultimately I feel like the big shift there was the Wizard's Vault, the game becoming a little bit more seasonal. Yep. Like it is a season in all but name, right? And the thing is, I think it was just tapping into how players played anyway. Let's be honest, that is how it went. Like when you had a new Guild Wars release, everyone would just go crazy, and then it would just like chill down a little bit, and then whoa, everyone's back, right? Like for the next episode. So I think it was just kind of like leaning into a player pattern that is very common in the industry. Like if you look at every MMO, they very much lean into this seasonal approach now because that is how people play these games, right? But to kind of like redirect here a little bit, like I think the one thing that's really interesting is that I think one of your concerns is that the older, and Nike kind of echoed here, is that like the older content will become potentially a little bit less played. I would argue this is already happening. And I think that this issue is unrelated to Guild Wars 3. I would say that it is a confluence of the fact that people are playing the game more seasonally now, and players are naturally more spread out over the world than they have been because there's just more of it, right? Like every time we get a new map, probably get a new meta event, right? That means that time slot is now contested. Maybe there's 2 metas at the same time. Players are only going to do one, or they're going to be split between them. They also don't really update old metas. So if an old meta becomes unrewarding, nobody's going to do it, right? Like because it just doesn't give you anything, right? So people are going to be farming, trying to be efficient. Like I would say that this is something that ArenaNet should look at in the next 18 months, right? I think it's the perfect opportunity to do this. They should go through and update rewards where needed on this older content, and they probably should.
Barons, please.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure, right? Like, and they should also just go ahead and lean into it a lot more. I really like what they do with the rush events. So, EOD rush, all right? Or, oh, yes, Soto rush. Yes, I love Soto rush, my favorite meta events ever. And all that kind of stuff. They probably need to lean into that like as much as possible. But that, again, like I think that's not really a function of Guild Wars 3. It's just a function of like the game expanding over time and like stuff and content basically becoming in a way like weirdly obsoleted. But that's a natural consequence of just having so much. Like if you keep adding stuff, eventually you're going to overwrite something else. Eventually you're going to have an overlap that makes that content a little bit less relevant overall. But I loved Core World Boss Rush. Like people are saying like, Svarnir Chief Rush, pause chant, but actually I think that stuff is actually really good. I am down for that 100%. Like I think one of the updates that I really enjoyed was when they actually went back and updated those old Core World Bosses. Those were really, really cool. Like look, that was some of my main content, guys. Like back in the day in the core game, I would mess around in like Roblox and Unity, like messing around with just random programming stuff. And I would do a world boss trade. I would do Triple Trouble every day. I would do Tequaddle every day in like an organized group. I'd be on I'm not sure if this group even exists anymore. I don't think it does, but I was on the open community TeamSpeak right? And we were just like blasting down these world bosses. I was farming my ectos and stuff like that. Yeah, I love that stuff. Like, it's really good. Like, the core game is kind of underrated in my opinion. So I'm really glad that they're giving it a pass, and I hope that they do put in some like really solid systems to keep players coming back to that content over time. Because yeah, like, I certainly don't want to see Guild Wars 2 end up having population issues outside of the most recent content. Like, people are obviously always going to be drawn to the most recent content, but Guild Wars 2 is a game about having other things remain relevant, like, you know, with every release. So I certainly don't want to see it end up dead, right? Yeah, I love Guyala Delve Rush. That's like the real content there.
There's oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If you like drawn to the most recent content, though, I feel that lasts like 3 weeks at most at the moment. Like, I don't know if when's the last time anybody in chat, for example, has on Hammerheart Twins, and that is current expansion.
That was a problem at launch of VOE,
that's
where I was like, what are the rewards in this event again? Nothing? Cool. Sign me up for this long term.
Yeah. I thought that was a reward issue. And they have
the Wizard's Vault. Yeah, it's a very powerful tool for keeping content alive. Like, if you look at Guild Wars 1, there's a lot of like story missions that, you know, you could just sit in that outpost for a week waiting for other players to show up and never see anybody. But when it's the daily, it's full, and there's groups, you know, firing every 20 seconds. So yeah, with the Wizard's Vault, if they want to you know, bring events that haven't gotten love in a while back to life, that haven't fired in a while, then yeah, they can just make it a weekly, and it will fire pretty consistently.
It would also be the lowest cost fix, I think, for the current problem.
Yeah,
because we see a lot of like suggestions on the forum thread, and somebody linked me like a list of quote unquote low cost improvements the devs could do to make Guild Wars 2 better. But every other suggestion wasn't low cost. It was like, I don't know, you need 100 people and 100 hours per person. But yeah, the Wizard's Vault would actually fix it, because like quite often I get asked like, yo, can we do a quick Gala Delves run? And you get like 5 or 10 people together, and by the time you get to the boss, it's a 50-man squad, so people want to do it. But there's nobody doing it unless you find a commander who, yeah.
That's the thing too. It creates a need, an unmet need will create a solution. So, you know, like when people needed dry top for whatever, and of course no one was doing dry top, that dry top guild sand or whatever they were called formed, and they just did dry top once a week. And I think that is like sort of a grassroots solution to these things. Like, there'll be like a guild that's like once the main Zerg has passed through the HOM, like 5 years from now, there will be a guild that that exists solely to help new Guild Wars 3 players get their Guild Wars 2 HOM, and they'll like do those things in Guild Wars 2 like in the right order to like get your things done. Like, it'll create itself, I feel like.
I would argue they should implement that even before like as soon as they can. Like content patch 3 for VOE, they should already do that. Because I do think, like, realistically, they'll bleed a little bit of audience before the Hall of Monuments even releases. And I can imagine if you're like, yeah, you're playing casually, you can play 2 hours a week. You missed Hall of Monuments patch 1 and 2. People are already like in Heart of Thorns, and you're going like, oh fuck, there's nothing left for me to do. Like I
have to do Spawner Shaman Chief again by myself.
Yes. Yeah.
With my helper.
I do want to I want to move on to like what Guild Wars 3 is relatively soon. Yeah. But I'm gonna destroy Phandrel. I am gonna annihilate him right now. Okay, your career is over. That's why I brought you on the show. You're done.
It's been a good run.
Okay, because the question that I have on this, like the final question on this kind of topic is, why do you think this isn't just going to end up like a WoW Classic style scenario where you have Classic and Retail, 2 very different games serving different audiences, running side by side? Because don't get me wrong, I see a lot of people share your concern, and you know, look, I want to hear it. That's why you're on the show, because I want to have that perspective discussed, right, and talked about. But like what is your doom scenario? Like, what is the doom scenario? Why are you concerned that the games can't coexist and potentially even grow alongside each other?
I think they can coexist, but I do think to coexist they actually need to put in like the work, and that's what I keep coming back to Colin's words. Like, we expect millions of people to flock, maybe over time. But you got to put in the work that the current players, because we have a giga content drought, right? Like, when we talk about what Guild Wars 3 will be, we don't have Guild Wars 3 probably for another 2 goddamn years.
Yep.
Where there's the only thing that we have is the Hall of Monuments. So you got to keep people warm now already and show, look, when Guild Wars 3 is out, we'll still keep providing you with the content you want to come back to. And that requires a lot of effort. I don't know how much planning went into WoW Classic, but what I do know is that every game who hoped they could be like WoW, and I'm gonna maybe like draw the line a little bit, like just hoping to become WoW Classic, I don't think that happens overnight. I think that happens with very good planning, and I'm not saying ArenaNet isn't doing that. But again, it would be reassuring to hear an actual actionable point rather than we'll keep supporting the game, because I kind of hope that as a fan. I sunk 13k hours in. I never see that as a sunk cost fallacy, by the way. I've had people ask, okay, now that Guild Wars 3 is out, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, actually had fun those 13k hours, so it's been a good experience. It's not that I go okay, those are lost or whatever. But I do think that making a WoW Classic BIS or, a Guild Wars Classic isn't as easy. And I do think it's when you go buy something in a store and you get a salesman. The dude who offers you 40 products will never sell you something. And then if you see another dude standing there, well, either you take this or this, you're going to make a choice. We already have Guild Wars 1. Why is Guild Wars 1 not Guild Wars Classic? And I know, that's the example actually, right? ArenaNet didn't put in the work then. And I do hope they already start pushing today or yesterday rather than we're going to finish Guild Wars 3 and then we're going to take a look at Guild Wars 2.
Well, I think this maintenance period, the maintenance period.
This
is what they're doing. This is what it's for, is it not? It's to prepare us for the future. And, it remains to be seen how much, effort is going to go into that, but hopefully enough to make the systems work and stand on their own at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess where I struggle with the despair is I feel like there is an example. Look, the games are going to be very different. They've said this, right? Like Guild Wars 1 is very different to Guild Wars 2, which is very different to Guild Wars 3. I don't really see them as necessarily being that cannibalistic towards each other. It's obviously was the case with Guild Wars 2 and 1, but that's because Guild Wars 1 literally went into maintenance mode. Right? Like the game just was left to sit around for years and years and years. I guess what I would ask is are you concerned that the expansions after Guild Wars 3 are going to be less than what we have now? Because otherwise, and actually another thing as well, and I think I'd agree with you here. Do you think it's bad that it's called Guild Wars 1, 2, and 3? Do you think that actually causes it? That you think that causes a problem? Yeah, because I'm trying to get into your head here and understand where you think the issue is. And I know what you mean when you say that, right? Because having the games named numerically is weird, right? Like you don't really have that with WoW, right? Because WoW is just, WoW Classic and WoW Retail, right? Like those are the two games that you have kind of running, and you have all the different versions, but they're not named numerically, right? Like, and I know what you mean. Like psychologically, that is a pretty interesting, thing going on there as well, I suppose. Yeah, I guess Final Fantasy is like that. Like they just count, they count up and up and up and up, I guess.
They're a bit of an exception as well, though. But yeah, I'll Nike said, well, skip ahead to 2028. I predict this. Skip ahead to 2032. When Guild Wars 4 gonna be a question on every stream, because and the domain is already registered from what I know and has been for 10 years. They also did, this is actually interesting. They said we continue to support Guild Wars 2 for 15 years and beyond. And Guild Wars 1 ran for, what is it? That's not a good 15 years, right? No. But Guild Wars 2 will have ran for like a good 15, 16 years. What if Guild Wars 3? And then I do think that, to be honest, like that looks entertaining right now because you can keep going to the next game. But then their current system like doesn't make sense. But yeah, numerically, the problem is if you don't number them, I think you get another problem. Because imagine it's Guild Wars Reforged, Guild Wars Forged, and Guild Wars Pre-Forged, because now we go back in time.
Yeah, that's a branding issue that would, like to go to WoW. I don't think WoW's got the naming conventions right. Like let's say I've never heard anything about WoW, and it's like, oh, are you gonna play the new WoW Season of Discovery? I'd be like, I don't know what that is, and it sounds dumb. So no, I'm not.
Yeah, they're trying to fix that with Classic Plus, I guess, right? Like, it got leaked / data mined. WoW Camelot being announced. I don't know if they'll actually call it that, right? But that's like the internal name as well. But WoW Retail. Well, nobody calls it that. Like Blizzard don't call it that. They call it Midnight, right? Because that's like the current version of the WoW. But yeah, it's definitely not perfect as well. And I think it can be overcome, right? I think there's a reason why they said they called Guild Wars they don't say Guild Wars 1, right? They say Guild Wars Reforged.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they might come up with another term to refer to these games, like at some point. It's going to be a little bit more difficult with 2 and 3, I feel like, because they literally have the number in the branding, right? Like the 2 dragon and then the 3 in the little flags they had going on there with Guild Wars 3. But I wonder if they could maybe make that a little bit easier, because I guess like let me give you a hypothetical here, okay? If we have this 18-month maintenance period where we're just improving the game, fixing the content, doing Hall of Monuments, loads of people are playing, we're having a good time, and then we basically go back to normal, like, is that, are you not expecting that to happen? Like, I guess what I'm asking is like, what are you expecting to happen afterwards? Because that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting we're fixing the game, doing Hall of Monuments, we're hyping up 3, and then Guild Wars 2 just is this, right? Like, we just do another Visions of Eternity, pretty much. Like, after that, like, is that something you're expecting to happen? Is that something you'd be happy with?
Yeah, actually, I have a mild take with a hot take embroidered in here, actually.
Ooh.
I do think that if you have the current expansion quality and quantity, that is a dream scenario. If we then go back to the Guild Wars 2 will become a seasonal game, because then we'll have enough content. Because right now, a lot of people, a week or 2 in, they go, okay, I've done the zone, I've done the story in like a night and everything. I don't have anything to do. And I had this as well. Like, I try to make my own fun and my own content. But at the end of the day, you gotta make your own content at the moment. And I don't think that is going to be an issue, actually, if we have more Guild Wars in general to play. The hot take, though, is that they should drop the raids, and that is coming from somebody who has embedded himself within like the hardcore, even the speedrun community now. Yeah, embedded. I don't know if you've actually seen what I sent to people when I joined OCD2. I sent them, when they asked me for my logs, a literal picture of a tree trunk. But yeah, no, like, I think they should drop the raids, and I'll tell you why. I know efficiency is like not a website that is infallible. But if you look on efficiency, do you know how many people have done Kayla on normal mode?
It's not many, is it?
It's just over 8,300 people. 8,000.
I would argue that's not that bad, to be fair.
But how many have finished the last story step of that patch? Because I guarantee you, it's actually a pretty decent percentage of that 8,000. It's probably only like 30,000 people have done the story. So a quarter of the people, that seems fine.
I don't know the story step, if we could check that out. I know if you
there's the achievement. You get an achievement when you finish the story step, so it's how many people have that achievement.
And the thing is, though, like, hear me out on this. I actually view the issues with Killer and why people aren't playing it as actually a problem with ArenaNet's raid design philosophy.
The normal mode is still too hard.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yes. 100%.
You know why people do Saris and Dagda every day? Because they're fucking piss easy in normal mode. Yeah. They're DPS golems.
Like,
that's what Killer normal mode should be.
It's not free, right? Like it is relatively
No.
challenging, right? Like in my opinion, for a normal mode encounter, and also it's long. And I get it. Like ArenaNet are trying. I think what they've done with raids, it's very interesting. Like maybe this is me being unhinged, but I really think that what ArenaNet is doing is they're trying to actually release raids basically for the more hardcore players. They're saying, well, we want to make sure that the players who really like raids, really like harder content, have stuff to do. This is for you guys, right? And, well, you know, you can measure the success of that. Like, you know, I know the raid community isn't the biggest fan of Keeler, particularly on challenge mode, right? But I think that's ArenaNet's goal here, because they've got the feedback time and time again. Why do the Wing 8 bosses have, you know, why do they take like 8 minutes, right? Like even on normal mode, like why do they have this much health? Like why does it take this long to do? But they keep doing it. And look, they're not stupid. They're seeing this feedback, but I think it's because they actually want them to be a little bit more challenging, right? They want normal and challenge mode to be kind of towards the more hardcore end of the spectrum, and they don't necessarily have enough resources to kind of have a full suite of difficulty settings there. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure I agree with that approach. I think that if you're going to have content like this, you do kind of want to make it as accessible as possible so that every player has a way to experience it in some way or another, right? Like, and if they need to squeeze another difficulty setting in there, if they just need to make the normal mode easier, right, then that is absolutely fine. Of course, that means there's a bigger step up to the challenge mode, but it is what it is. There's going to be a compromise somewhere. But I'm not sure we can really say, I'm not sure it's that concerning that these bosses have like a low kill count, because especially on Keeler, because people just don't like it. Like people don't like it that much. Like in the same way,
I don't find it any fun.
And people didn't like Wing 8. Look, this is the thing. Like I actually got meme for this so hard. There was a clip of me saying that people aren't going to like Wing 8, and well, I told you, like people didn't like it that much, as it turns out, right? Like because Wing 8 is kind of hard and kind of long on all of the bosses. So
I would argue,
yeah,
they had the right approach, though. I agree the bosses, like, well, all three can be a pug killer. Well, maybe not Ura, that's the irony, the final boss being the easiest of the three for normal mode. But presenting them and in a story and an open world meta, in convergences and convergence CM, and then in the raids, I do think that was actually a genius approach, because I'd be happy if a raid boss is literally a copy paste of like other type of content, and then just, you know, make the mechanics a little bit. Okay, I'm probably like one of the 12 people in the room who likes the Wing 8 CMs, because they also went with a very original design in like, you know, area denial for all the players in 3 various ways. If they make it like that, where they can repurpose their content, I do think it's good, and they kind of did with Kayla. But yeah, like the full-on raid design, I don't know. It hurts me as somebody who loves all the raids in the game to say that make them so, well, people want to do them, but also check out the cost benefit of it. Like if not enough people do raids, that could be time they put in something else for the Guild Wars 2 fans as well.
Yeah.
This is why Wing 4 is the best raid wing. You can deny it, but it is. Normal mode is very easy until you get to Deimos. Then Deimos normal mode is like a decent challenge for a pug group, and then the CMs are relatively challenging. Like they even like Karen CM's not hard by any means, but pugs struggle on most CM, that's for sure. So
yeah. I think they found a really good.
That's the difficulty they should have hit.
Yeah,
and then you could even have an LCM on top for Sarah or for Deimos, and it would have been awesome.
Imagine Deimos LCM, but there's like a whole new phase, and you know, sub 10% becomes like 50%, and it's completely.
Or
different.
Saul is there, but he juices Deimos and not you.
Oh yeah. See, that would be really, really sick, right? If they went in that direction. But yeah, well, I think the other thing we also need to talk about on this, we've derailed into, you know, I love this. Even when we have new things to talk about, guys, we end up in the same conversations we've been having about Guild Wars 2, right? Like, I think the other thing, especially about the more modern raid content, is the rewards suck, right? Like, and I think a lot of your concerns, or some of your concerns at least, about player population, some of the concerns I've seen from other players and players in the chat and so on, is that I feel like ArenaNet have struggled to balance rewards recently.
Oh yeah.
Right? And that's a big deal, because bear in mind, Guild Wars 2 is a gold farming simulator. This is not WoW, where your reward is, oh shit, I got this really cool skin. Oh, I got this, mount, right, for beating the raid or doing this achievement, right? Or oh, look, I got this gear upgrade, this trinket, and now I'm more powerful. That's not how the reward structure works in Guild Wars 2. It's all about gold. And, weirdly enough, notice how I said it's not all about the skins, because in a way, it kind of isn't. Especially when it comes to raids. What the really coveted items are typically things that you farm gold to get. So legendary armor, stuff off the gem store, and you can do, gold to gems. Legendary weapons, right? Like all that kind of stuff. Those are the really coveted items. So if an activity doesn't, if the activity doesn't have like good gold per hour, you're gonna not see people engage with it. Like, especially if it's more difficult. Like, because of how gold-oriented the reward structure is in Guild Wars 2, like, you need to make sure that people are getting, like, good gold for doing this stuff. Otherwise, people aren't going to play. And I think that's really true for all the content not seeing play, right? Like, I don't actually think there's a player population issue in Guild Wars 2 at all now. I think there's enough players. It's that the players are all attracted to the content that's the most rewarding, as you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
That's not a surprise, right? There's loads of people who play Guild Wars 2, but nobody's doing the Epoch meta because the rewards suck, right? Nobody's going back to do Dragon Stand because why would you, right? Like you need some crystalline ore to get like legendary armor, I guess, but that's about it. Like it's not hard to get. You have to do it a couple of times in order to do that. But you're not going to have players going back to do some of this content unless they really take a look at some of the rewards, unless they make sure that this content is rewarding. And well, maybe to kind of wrap this topic up, I really do think that the best way to do that is just by doing Wizards Vault stuff, which makes all content insanely rewarding, and some kind of like seasonal rush style achievements.
Yep.
Yep.
The one thing they shouldn't do is give a mystic coin for every event you do. I see that offered everywhere. Because get ready for 50-man squads on Octavine, but it's actually 2 players on 25 accounts. Like that. That is the one thing they shouldn't do.
Yeah, 100%. So next topic, and this is another one. This is another kind of one that I've seen this a lot. It is, what is Guild Wars 3? I think there's a lot of concern about what this game actually is. Like, is it like a single player thing, right? Is it an actual MMO? We do have some information on this now. There have been a couple of posts regarding this. But I am actually, like, once again, I am drawn to what do you think, Phandrel? Are you a Guild Wars 3 enjoyer? Or do you also find yourself full of despair for what is to come in Guild Wars 3?
I am ready for something new in a way. Like, yeah, like I know despite some of my doomer takes, I'm like ready to just play 16 hours a day, where I wake up and then I log into Guild Wars 2, do a couple of dailies, do Svanir Shaman because we're memeing about it. Then I go to Guild Wars 3 and, right before bed, I do a quick underworld speed clear in Guild Wars Reforged or something. But like as to what it is, I keep seeing like the same thing that people suggest is that, well, the closest that people already know is like a Genshin-like in terms of very small groups. I think it was Colin who said like you'll have Guild Wars 1 on one end of the spectrum, Guild Wars 2 on the other end of the spectrum, and they were notably talking about groups and parties. So I feel like we might not see the 50-man content or the 70-man content depending on like map caps in Guild Wars 3 necessarily. Maybe a couple of harder bosses. It would be interesting if they just made like a zone, for example, where instead of a world boss, you get to fight elites or whatever, and that are sufficiently hard and hopefully rewarding enough. I also don't know if you've seen like the video. I don't even know if we can talk about it from Canon, who checked like a dev's portfolio that is now employed by ArenaNet. Okay, because like what he put out. Looks goddamn amazing. Like if that's the fluidity of combat we're talking about, yeah, like goddamn sign me up. But please make sure that we can use combat also solo to farm something. Because except for rifts, it's fishing, it's gathering, it could be standing AFK in front of the check wall, sure, but again, that's a group event. If they there's always a thing that pained me the most about Guild Wars 2. The combat is insanely good, but solo it's not that rewarding. One of the series on my YouTube channel that actually attracted a lot of my initial viewers was me farming tier 5 and 6 materials, for which I had to do like a giga deep dive in how diminishing returns or the anti-farm code work. Do you know, by the way, that has gotten like stealth buffed, well, the code even, so you can't even escape the anti-farm code anymore by swapping zones now. So yeah, like I want fluid combat. I wouldn't mind if it's smaller parties, although with fluid combat, I don't know if I think we might be locked into a Guild Wars 2 situation. I don't know if like a healer would be sensible in a action combat setting compared to a more traditional tap target MMO. Like I don't know how you see it, but like I find that Guild Wars try to fix that, but it's not the same, right? So, and then especially with controller support being there, I think like ally targeting might also be a bit off. But yeah, I don't know. I keep seeing like four people, very fluid combat. So I guess it's gonna be I don't know, for lack of better like comparison, Monster Hunter like, but with lower HP mobs.
I think that
I think New World might be a better comp.
Probably
for
Yeah, I'd say so.
terms of party size, and also like the different sort of, you know, the type of encounters that you're gonna see in the world.
I would definitely say so. And I think, you know, you bring up a really interesting thing about solo play. And I'll tell you what, I do think that's actually going to be a key thing that ArenaNet is going to solve. And I think they hinted at this and they slightly bungled the comms. And that's why there's a lot of doubt about, is this a real MMORPG? Despite the fact that they've been pretty insistent. Yeah, this is an MMORPG. In the recent article, they talk about how it's about halfway, right? It's like halfway between 1 and 2. Right, so not the massive zergs of 2, but you're going to have like more than, let's say 12, right? Because like the biggest player group size in 1 is 12. You go into the deep, you go into Urgos, you've got 12 players, right? You know, PvP and stuff like that is like 4 or 8 players, right, or whatever. And in Guild Wars 1, a lot of the time, all that kind of stuff. And I actually think that they probably will lean into like solo play quite a bit in 3, because that's actually how a lot of people play these games. Like that, I think that's one of the big features about Guild Wars 2 that players actually like, is that. So I think they will probably try to have a lot of stuff that you can do on your own, like solo boss challenges, like solo farming stuff that you can go around and like, you know, gathering focus. A little bit like New World. New World kind of had this. I think it had some pretty good support for this. You could just go around like looting chests, chopping trees, right? Like hitting rocks, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, maybe do a little bit of PvP while you're out there. Maybe you group up and do like an elite area, all that kind of stuff. Really fun, I think. So I think that is definitely going to be a focus of what they do. But I do think you are still going to have like relatively high player counts, not 50, right? But I do think, you know, let's say there's a world boss, like maybe you end up fighting it with like 15, 20 players, right? Like that's probably my expectation for how it's going to go approximately. And yeah, I think the really important thing, and yeah, we can kind of get into a discussion about this, is that gamers, this is not gonna be Guild Wars 2 with better graphics, okay? I know that like some people want that, but Guild Wars 3 is not gonna be Guild Wars 2 in Unreal Engine. It is gonna be a radically different game, I think.
Do you actually think they'll keep the shared loot as Guild Wars 2 did? Or is it gonna be forced? Well, like Guild Wars 1 had forced shared loot, right? Where you get assigned the drop? Or are we, I don't know, like, do you think they'll make us compete for resources a little bit more?
No way.
I think so when it comes to like leveling and like, you know, at launch, they're not going to have to do anything special to get people to play in small groups, because, you know, I'm going to be doing a heart on this side of the map. You know, let's say the maps have like a player cap of like 25 or 30 or whatever. You know, me and my two friends, we're going to be on this one side of the map doing a heart. The other group is going to be on the other side of the map doing a heart. You know, the other group's going to be tagging an event in the north because the maps are going to be really big. You know, spreading the players out while leveling is not an important thing that they have to worry about. But the end game, it is kind of interesting. At the end game, people are always drawn to what the most efficient way to farm things is. And if there's any content that requires a pulse to complete, that you can't just, auto attack to death. If you have to if there's elite mobs or even champions or whatever that you have to actually think to beat, it's going to be easier to do in a large group.
Yeah.
And so if the end game requires you to think, and I hope it does, because I don't want the end game to be completely brainless, how do they prevent you from zerging? If maybe they're not going to encourage you to zerg. They're not going to have a commander tag that allows up to 50 people in the thing. They're not going to give you the tools necessarily to make it easy, but people will still do it. People will go, okay, I know where the 4 bosses that spawn on this map are, and I know the order they spawn in. Everyone just follow us, and it will turn into a zerg. So they have to design the content and the systems in a way to greatly discourage that.
It's kind of hard to imagine what that looks like, right? That's...
Well, I actually thought of a way.
Oh, okay.
So think about Drizzlewood, where you participate in the map doing anything, and you get a participation meter that fills up. And then, every 5 events, you get a reward drop based on what level of participation you are on the map. So you could be doing anything in the map, as long as you're tagging events, as long as you're doing hearts, doing events. It doesn't matter what events you're doing. You're just filling up that participation bar, and then as long as you play and keep participating in events, you'll keep getting the loot drops every 10 minutes or whatever. And that way, it doesn't matter if I'm I don't need to follow this big group to get the maximum rewards. I'm getting the maximum rewards doing literally whatever I find most fun. Because the rewards are tied to the participation bar and not to necessarily the exact content that it is. It's not because with Cursed Shore, there were a lot of events that were good, that were there, but no one did them because Plinks was the best. But if you just had a Cursed Shore participation bar, you could do any events you wanted in Cursed Shore and have gotten the same rewards. And that would have spread people out so they weren't all doing Plinks. And I think that's the way I would, at least in my initial gut feeling is how I would do it.
Yeah,
it would require them to still make then the events equal in it's not difficulty, but in not annoyance, right? Imagine there's one event that is just killing mobs. People will still farm that, I would say, but I think that's probably
Yeah, it's hard to say because we know so little about how the end game is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, and what the actual game is gonna do. But yeah, I guess that would be one way to do it. I suppose I'd be kind of against that because in a way, I'm not the biggest fan of decoupling rewards from the actual content itself, I guess. But obviously that does have its own downsides, right? If you have the rewards very tightly coupled to the event, then people are gonna find what the best thing is, and they're just gonna do it over and over and over again. So I think it is really hard to prevent this because let's say we're in Guild Wars 3, and we've got 50 players on a map, right? That's how it is. But that's bigger, right? So it's not as, many people all in one place as there are in Guild Wars 2. So it's in all of Ore, you've got 50 players or something like that. Maybe 60, 70. It is going to be interesting to see how those players are going to behave. I guess the way that you can kind of do it is by having a lot of things going on at the same time. So players are going to have to pick in a way, and that means that, oh, well, I want to go do this one because this drops this, and I want that. Oh, I want to go do this one because this has this drop or whatever. So that might be a way to do it. Because I feel isn't the issue with Guild Wars 2 players maximizing efficiency because the event you do doesn't matter, right? Because everything in Guild Wars is measured in gold per hour. But what if it's not measured in gold per hour? And I think
that's unlikely.
Well, here's the thing though.
The economy is going to be the same as Guild Wars 2 because of the cash shop and the gems to gold.
Isn't Guild Wars 1 a decent example of this? Because I feel in Guild Wars 1, not everyone farms the same thing.
Oh no, people go because people target farm skins.
Yeah, exactly.
And rare drops.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously there are farms. You know, you can go and farm ectos or whatever, right? You can farm arm braces, right? Like in DOA. Like there are.
Well, you can like solo farm like raptors and whatnot
and you can. There's a bunch of like solo farms and like gold farms that you can do, and that's fine. There's nothing. I don't have a problem with gold farms. It's an MMO, right? There's going to be gold farms, but I think the loot structure, I feel like, would make people not Zerg. I think the reason why everything in Guild Wars 2 is so Zergy and people just find the most efficient thing is because you just farm gold. You don't farm a specific thing, right? Whereas in other games, and I think it's worth noting that Guild Wars 2 is kind of the outlier of this, right? Like most games are not gold farming sims in the way that Guild Wars 2 is. And by the way, there are some big upsides of this. Like, for example, it's actually really nice to be able to say, yeah, I can literally farm anything I want and I can make progress towards any goal I want. That's like a really big strong point of Guild Wars 2. But the downside is that it does make players gravitate towards specifically the thing that gives you the most reward. It's hard for ArenaNet to say, oh, go do this event. Oh, go do this event. I think they've actually made some really, really solid progress by adding stuff like the Raptor mount. I think that's really cool. To the open world meta event in the latest map, Eternity's Garden. That's really cool. Same with adding infusions and all that kind of stuff. Really exciting. But I do think the loot system in Guild Wars 2 is kind of what holds it back there. So if it is different and you're going to farm specific events for more specialized or like specific items that you're going to go for, I think that might actually help spread players out, especially if the map is going to be big. And bear in mind, in one of the posts they linked, or the ArenaNet have posted, they've said it's going to be, well, I think they've heavily implied it's going to be a full open world, right? They say it's going to be less loading screens. It's going to be a contiguous world is the wording that they used. So I think you're going to be dealing with much bigger playable space. It's not going to be like, oh, you're in this little map, right? Like as in Guild Wars 2. It's going to be more akin to New World, more akin to classic WoW, right? Where you have this massive space and you're going to be moving through it pretty quick, obviously, but it's going to be a huge expansive world. And yeah, you're going to have to pick and choose, right? You're not going to be able to do all of the things at the same time. And I think that will kind of lead to players naturally spreading out a little bit and kind of completing like different objectives around the map.
And also they could hard assign things too. Like, let's say there's a meta event where there's 5 bosses that spawn. They could literally just say, this is your boss of the 5. And that force splits people up into 5 groups.
Yeah.
I gotta say, they should also just take a page out of Path of Exile 2's book, actually, with the current league they have. You have, what is it now, 6 endgame mechanics, and like at the end of the day, if you're in Trade League in Path of Exile, it's not about gold per hour, but divines per hour. But you know, it's just a name at that point. I like abysses, so I farm a crap ton of abysses. But somebody who absolutely hates doing them and likes farming rituals, which is another type of endgame content, they can actually get to the exact same step, which I think is kind of been done with how frequent the rarity of the rewards is and how rewarding they are to trade in. And ArenaNet can control the economy, right? Like if they find like some good trade-in value or to keep, you know, well, with drops, they basically literally balance gold per hour or the gold that an item is worth. So if they would just pick if we don't only think class balance, but we think gold balance and make sure that is equal between activities, that would actually be a huge win. Because then you can do what Nike actually even originally suggested, right? You can farm whatever event you want, but then, event chain or type of content, without necessarily fucking over the economy in one way where you have a lot of people who are like the haves and then the have-nots, and then in another way where you actually do the stuff that you enjoy, like you want to keep playing. You're not farming because that is your farm.
Yeah. I think there's a very interesting tension between player freedom and rewards being a bit more meaningful, right? Because I think if you Guild Wars 2 is like maximal player freedom, right? Like you can do anything you want, and you'll get rewarded. But I think the interesting consequence of that is that the rewards are slop, right? Like it does, you're getting stuff and the numbers going up. Like you're not even paying attention to it, right? You're not looking at what drops you're getting, right? When you're playing Guild Wars 2, you're going, aha, I got my unidentified gear that I'm gonna sell or salvage for ectos, right? Like, aha, yes, this is it. Feels good. But that's the downside, right? And then of course the other end of that is that you go, okay, well, now I need to farm this dungeon to get this item, right? Like to get this material or whatever. Well, the upside of that is that it's like, oh, it dropped, let's go. Yep. But the bad side of that is that, well, what if you hate that dungeon? Right? Like, what if you really dislike that particular piece of content? And yeah, I think it's really hard to imagine a universe where you have both of those. I think that those two things do, in a way, they are exclusive to an extent. I'm not sure if you can really have a situation where you have really meaningful rewards and it doesn't encourage zerging, right? You're just like farming the most efficient way to make the gold number go up. But you also have player freedom at the same time. So it's going to be interesting to see like where exactly they end up falling on that particular spectrum. But I certainly have a feeling that they're going to go a little bit further away from Guild Wars 2. Like, again, from what I'm hearing rather, I do think they're going to be taking a couple of leaves out of Guild Wars 1's book. Right? They're talking about skill capture, right? And exploring the world. And I think that's going to be part of the progression, by the way. I think
I love that.
Yeah, I think a key part of the progression, you could even call it vertical in some sense, I suppose, is going to be unlocking new abilities. Like a new expansion's going to drop and you're going to go out and like explore and capture skills and learn new abilities, all that kind of stuff that are going to help you become more powerful.
Unlocking your elite specialization by like hunting bosses in the world. Exactly, oh my God, that would be so much more fun than just getting hero points.
Well, or spending the ones you got like from 10 patches ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, like I've been thinking about this because you asked like, what do you think Guild Wars 3 will look like?
It sounds like it'll be alt unfriendly, unlike Guild Wars 2, which is like the alt friendliest game ever. Like the more RP you put behind like character unlocks, that is alt unfriendly by definition. And I'm personally fine with it. I don't need to play like, 3 of every character. I don't have to have every race and gender of every single profession. Like I'm fine with maybe one of each. So yeah, I don't mind that, but I can see some people that do.
What if we can do everything on a single character? There's no.
They want to sell character slots. This is again the monetization comes into conflict with that.
I mean, it's even worse, right? It's back slots, it's equipment and build templates. Like, I'm killing their monetization model, but it would be kind of cool if it was a bit more class agnostic, I would say. Because I kind of hate it when I have to relog like 5 times, depending on the groups I run with. Because I'm expected to do something on one profession, then on the other. Like, I would want it, but yeah, I don't see it happening. But, one can hope, right?
The Guild Wars 3, can we all just agree to just not min-max? Just play whatever you find fun. Get good at it. But just run it down mid. Play Grenth healer if that's what you want to play, and that's all you want to play, even if it's not the best healer. But just play it and get as good as you can at it. Don't relog. No relogs.
Well, you know what YouTube is gonna look like right on week 1? Oh my God, I found the newest trick, and this will be the screenshot that just about every single streamer will have on their YouTube.
I'm just gonna use pictures of Darren's in my thumbnails for Guild Wars 3. Yeah,
I mean, like he's pretty excited about this stuff. Like he's definitely good in the thumbnail.
I have a log, a folder of Darren's reaction pictures for my thumbnails.
I don't think it will be that bad. Like, okay, let's assume that you do have to like do all this RP stuff. Doesn't that mean you just have to do it once on every character? Is that really so bad?
Yeah, that's fun. That's the game. That's the game.
I like the RP, right? Like, I think it's good.
Exactly.
I love the idea of kind of like venturing out and unlocking skills. I think it's one of the features that people really look back fondly on Guild Wars 1, right? Like
hitting level 80 boost is the most awful thing that you can do in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
To be honest, like it is also more a grand adventure, right? Because you actually worked for your character, not okay, I clicked a button, I now get a new healing skill. And that also means you can actually skip maybe some content you really don't want to do. Like, what if a healing skill is dog shit and you're not a completionist? Why even go there?
Yeah, exactly. I don't I don't think it's a bad thing that if they put a bit more progression to it. Now, don't get me wrong. 3 is going to be horizontal, right? Like let's be real. It's going to be a horizontal game, which is fine. But I think they will have a bit more to it, right? I think it is possible. I think it's pretty likely even that getting your gear is going to take some time. It's going to require you doing specific things, right? I think that unlocking all of your character abilities is going to take some time, right? It's going to be more of an involved RP journey. But once you've got that sorted on your favorite character, you're going to be good. Now, of course, they'll eventually add other things into the mix, I think, like over time. Like that's pretty, I think that's pretty clear that's what they're going to be doing. But it's still, you're going to be able to have like new things to unlock, new things to play around. Feels like almost like a bit of almost what they were trying to do with relics in Guild Wars 2. I don't think it really quite landed, to be honest, but like combined with how Guild Wars 1 works, all the new skills to unlock and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting when it comes to like how the reward structure works in Guild Wars 3. Of course, pure speculation though.
One of my things that I don't like about relics is how they're all hidden behind achievements in the UI. And there's not like okay, how do I get, you can't just like look at the list of relics and go, that's the relic I want. And then it gives you the quest to go do it. Like you have to like search around the UI to try to find like which achievement gives you which relic as a reward, and then you're like, okay, how do I even find this?
Actually, that's something we need in Guild Wars 3 even, right? Because
hopefully a better a better like traditional questing system. That's way better. It just is, and that was a thing that ArenaNet innovated on that did not require innovation. Just go back to traditional questing, please.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, like,
to be fair, I do actually think that is more of a UI issue than anything else. Because look, I will slightly defend hearts here. Hearts are just quests, right? Like that's what they are, really. And like dynamic events are kind of like little quest chains. That's what they are. That just pop up and you just go and interact with them. It's just that like the UI for this stuff is a little bit less than desirable, especially when it comes to achievements, right? Because like the game does have quests. It's like all the little collections are basically little quests that you go on. It's just that they didn't really develop the UI for that. So I think if they translate those ideas and have them a little bit more free, a bit more open, and still have the kind of the traditional collection style quests in the mix, then I think that would be completely fine. But like from what I'm sounding, I think the exploration element is going to be a lot like 2, right? Like it's going to be very similar to 2, I think. You're going to be going around like seeing things, stuff's going to pop up randomly. You're going to investigate all the different areas and find stuff and even go back.
The only content in the game will be vistas.
Yeah.
Nothing but vistas.
It is a sightseeing event. Okay, that's what it is. Like you just go around and look at stuff. That's it.
I mean, there are systems are basically bringing over from Guild Wars 2 as well, right? Our Seeker, which is a mod. Now, I don't know if like the Flying Dragon is also one that we get to mod, but we've seen gliding. So yeah, like exploration, questing like that, I think. But you're right that it's an UI issue. Like whenever somebody pops in chat and they ask like, I'm level 80, now what? I tell them like, check the masteries. And that is actually going to take you through the achievements, which is going to take you through the game again in a targeted manner. Yeah, they should have that, but yeah. I would like also a bit of an easier way to at least get a content suggestion, if you will.
For sure, yeah. I think that onboarding is a really important thing. They've worked on that quite a bit, I think, right? And I expect them to continue to do so. They've spoke that they want to. This would be really cool if they did this a bit more for 3, actually. But they said that they want to try to get more information in the game about the game, and so players don't have to rely as much on external sources. By the way, I think that's really, really useful. Again, like the obvious one to look at, in my opinion, is World of Warcraft. There's a lot of information. There's something called the adventure guide, right, in WoW, and it will tell you all of the mechanics for every dungeon and every raid, right? Like that's just super useful. It's in the game. You can just see it in the game and you can get an idea of like how these bosses work, right? It can tell you, everything about like all the various bits of content and stuff like that. It's super good. Yeah, the dungeon journal. Yeah, it's super useful in World of Warcraft. I think stuff like that is great, like especially when it comes to accessibility of like more challenging stuff. It gives people a way to kind of learn without having to go around on the internet and find information, stuff like that. So yeah, looking at onboarding, I think is really, really important. And yeah, UI is a big factor in that. And well, who knows? Maybe the UI is, is easier to develop in Guild Wars 3. Maybe that's why they went for Unreal, so they can actually change the UI as opposed to in Guild Wars 2 where it's kind of painful.
They have to make it more accessible as well. If you like, they're building with controller from the ground up as well for PS5 players. So I would assume, well, the UI might be, I don't know if it's going to be a bit more bare bones or whether they do a split UI, but like I hope it's at least a bit more accessible than what we have now. Because imagine going through our current hero panel with a controller with like a point and click mouse with your joystick. Holy, that would be an adventure as well, I guess.
Well, yeah. Speaking of what Guild Wars 2 is, which is the topic.
Yep.
It's going to have PvP, everybody.
You think?
I know there's a lot of. I'm not saying what type of PvP.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to have 5v5 arena conquest. I'm not saying it's going to have World v World. It probably won't have either of those two things, but it's going to have some sort of PvP. So and maybe it might not be to your cup of tea, but there is going to be some sort of PvP. I guarantee you that. You don't need to make Reddit posts saying, the sky is falling because they haven't mentioned PvP yet. It's going to happen. It's a AAA MMO. Coming out with a AAA MMO and not having PvP, you'll get laughed out of the room.
Yeah.
They can't do it. Even if they don't want PvP in their game, they're going to add it. They're forced to add it. Just like they're going to be forced to add some sort of endgame PvE. They might not even want to do raids. They might not even want to do dungeons, but they're going to have to add it because otherwise they'll get laughed out of the room. And that's just the way it is.
What if the PvP is like Throne Liberty? Like, I don't know if people played it, but you had a world boss there, which was then also the designated World v World enabled zone. So you get to do your world boss. But only if you fight other people as well.
That's what Arcage did. Like you basically Guild v Guild or World v World, and then the winners got to actually fight the world boss and get the drops they need.
See, I love stuff like that.
They're not going to do that.
They're not doing that, but I think that stuff is so cool. But look, we're saving that for Classic Plus. I am inclined to agree. Now, I think what form that takes, it's anyone's guess, really. Right, because I'm not expecting it to be traditional, really. I'm expecting it to be pretty different, I think. But I do agree. This sounds weird, guys. I know this sounds weird in a universe where MMOs are so PvE oriented these days. But seriously, I actually think if a game doesn't have a PvP mode of some kind, doesn't have some kind of dungeon analog, some kind of endgame PvE, like big boss raid thing, people are going to look at it as incomplete, right? And that's a powerful perception. Like, I really do think that's how it goes. And who knows, maybe ArenaNet are going to surprise us, but I certainly do think that there are going to be things like that in the game, right? Like, in some sense. It might not necessarily be like ultra hardcore, mega hard raids. And to be honest, I kind of hope they don't go in that direction because, again, that's a lot of work. And to be honest, I don't think you really want to compete in the ultra hard raid category because I think, again, like WoW and Final Fantasy have that market like locked down pretty well.
I don't know. I think marketing-wise, Guild Wars 3 launches.
Yeah.
A month later, they say, okay, we're pushing the update that's going to add the first raid with a legendary challenge mode. And who's going to be world's first for this legendary challenge mode? I think at that point there's going to be a very, very, very high player count for the game, and I think it will capture people's attention. It will be a big event for the game on Twitch. Now, whether 10 years from now, or 10 years from then, like it still matters, maybe not. But out of the gate, like I think that is a huge marketing opportunity for the game.
I get it. Okay, I just didn't want to. Look, I was trying to de-hopium myself. I was like, okay, let me take it down.
I'm not saying I'm not saying they will do it. I'm saying they should do it because it makes good business sense.
Okay.
Wait, let me actually giga hope you, MightyTeapot.
Oh, he's been converted. He's no longer in despair.
no.
He's full of joy.
No. Hear me out. Imagine they do what Nike say, like huge 1 month, you get to prepare all your characters, you do a raid and an LCM, and the first 5 or 10 groups that complete it get their name like carved into a statue that will be in the entrance of the ArenaNet offices. With like, I don't know what the main character will be yet, just a plaque below, and all those people, like, dude, you're gonna get the hype that they did this in Diablo 4 for the first 100 people hitting max level, right? Dude,
each urinal in the men's bathroom at ArenaNet will have a different player's name and a plaque over it. So every time you go in there, you get reminded of the heroes of the game.
Dude, let them submit a picture because you know somebody's then gonna go while you're peeing.
Where is the plaque though? Like, is it in the urinal or above the urinal?
Why not?
Like,
Target practice.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously I would love that stuff. And I'm definitely expecting that. Look, I think what they will, it's weird. I'm not sure if we'll actually hear that much about how the end game looks for quite a while. Because, and again, I look.
It's probably not built yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, to be clear, gamers, like, in my mind, they're probably still kind of fleshing out, like, really getting the combat how they want it, really getting the core systems how they want it, and then they'll add the content later, right? And
they
by
have
the way,
a vision at this point, I would imagine,
yeah,
but they don't have code necessarily for it.
Yeah, they probably have some idea of what they want it to look like, but it might just not be implemented. And bear in mind, that's pretty normal, by the way. Like, you actually add the content weirdly late into the day a lot of the time when it comes to game dev and stuff, right? Like, that's just kind of how it goes. And I know that everyone's super excited, but bear in mind, we still have like 2 years to go before a release, realistically. We've got this 18-month maintenance period, maintenance mode. And then it will be a bit of time after that, right? It won't be like immediately after the 18 months. It will be, you know, some time after that. They'll then end up dropping the game. So we're a long way off. Like 2 years is a long way off in game dev, especially seeing as they're going to continue to grow the studio, right? They're going to try to get more devs on, like pre-orders are going to happen. That's going to give them an idea of, you know, wow, a lot of people are buying this game. That will then allow them to potentially get more stuff, to go for a final push to, you know, make more stuff, whatever. So like the content itself won't really be done yet. So I think we're gonna have to wait a long time to actually find out how that's gonna go. But yeah, I'm certainly expecting, look, as long as it has PvP, I'm actually happy. Like, I don't think, you know, stuff like Giga endgame raids will be like a big long-term focus for the game. I think it will be very much, I think they really want to express this amazing movement, this massive open world that's adventuring around and encountering players and stuff like that. I think that's going to be like the really big focus of the game, like, you know, somewhat similar to Guild Wars 2, but on like a grander scale. But as long as it's got some PvP, as long as it's got some dungeons, as long as it's got raids, I'm definitely going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, sounds good.
You can probably kind of guesstimate their announced calendar, no? Like,
oh yeah, what do you think?
Next year, I would assume, like, okay, the beta happens in fall of 2027. I assume that's like, I don't know, October or something. Probably more like November. If there's like 6 professions, I would assume, I'm just like spitballing a number here because there were 6 gods on the banner. I have like no fucking idea how it'll be. That's a huge announce once a month that will build giga hype into the beta at least. Beforehand, I do think that we probably see more lore, more about ore. Like you already alluded to it, like the size. Maybe a couple of the events that we will be doing, like a little bit of like content drip. And then the latter half of next year, I assume we finally kind of understand what we will be playing, as in, you know, what skills are we using? Maybe they leak one a skill, like, I don't know, one review, or they leak something super innovative, where if you dash, jump, and then hit the target, you get a damage boost or whatever, because they mentioned that, you know, movement will feature in combat. So like, I kind of think that we, like, I haven't thought about this enough, but we could probably, if like everybody in the community sticks their heads together, you can probably kind of figure out a release calendar for news already now. And yeah, there's going to be parts wrong, but most of it will make sense with how much dev time they need.
Yeah, and one thing they won't have to put any time towards is a blog post about Char in Guild Wars 3, because there won't be any.
True. Actually, true.
Completely disabled.
Yeah,
we can change that. No.
We don't want to change that.
No, wait. If everybody goes to the forums and they ask, why no Char in Guild Wars 3, and they do a Q&A session, they will have to answer. So at least we will
Listen,
know.
guys, there is going to be Char in Guild Wars 3. The rugs decorating my player housing are going to be Char fur. The bags that my character keeps his equipment in, Char skin. That's where the Char are going to be. And if you Char players don't like that, you can stay in Guild Wars 2. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, because we're going even before Guild Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Guild Wars 1, the Char were not treated well, right? Like you
No,
wear a Char helmet, Char armor.
No, we did not like them, and they're going to be even more victimized in this game. They're going to be on the run.
Yeah, the Char will be removed from our lands, I guess. Like as the humans kind of moving in, exploring, taking over Ascalon, and well, just the entire world, really. I guess. Like after all of the Ore stuff, that's what happened, guys. It is what it is. And well, I did want to talk about the combat system, but actually, seeing as we're on this topic, we can go ahead and get into it for a little bit. What do we think about the presumed choice to only go with 3 playable races? I definitely have my idea about it, and I feel like you guys will probably agree with me on this. But what are we thinking about going with a little bit less of a scope in terms of playable races going into Guild Wars 3?
Well, I think it's almost certainly to reduce development debt. When they come out with if they add a new dungeon and that new dungeon has an armor set, you only have to make 3 armors. Well, if male and female humans are very different enough, then yeah, you have to make a different armor for the 2. But it limits the amount of skins that they have to develop towards armor, and that is very important in terms of getting more out.
And I think it's no coincidence that the 3 playable races that we've presumably seen.
Big, medium, small.
Yeah, big, medium, small, and all humanoid. Like no tail, right? Like no being hunched over, no running on all 4s, right? They're all humanoid, very humanoid characters, right? With the Coden, the Azura, and the human. And I think that is absolutely no coincidence. I think that the 5 playable races for 2 probably really hamstrung development, like especially when it came to skins, voice acting, right? Just like all of it, right? That was probably a massive expense. It also meant they had to do more starter areas, which limited the amount of endgame zones that could be added. I actually, it's interesting. It sounds like the way
only one starter area in this game. I hope.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it sounds like, right? Because you're all joining this guild, like the Veil Wardens, right? So you're all being funneled into one area. So probably only one starting area for all of the races, maybe with some slight deviations, right? Oh, but yeah, go ahead, Phandrel. You get in, bro.
What if you actually start max level and the leveling up is just unlocking your skins? Your skills, not skins.
Yeah, I suggested that too. That there won't be that was one of my hot takes, is that there won't be experience points and there won't be levels. It'll just be unlocking your traits or unlocking your perks or whatever they call them, and then unlocking your skills would be your progression, your character progression.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all, because think about it, like that's kind of what leveling is. Like in an MMO, what is leveling? Leveling is basically the game slowly giving you your abilities, right? That's what it is. They don't want to dump you into the game with all your skills, because you're going to go, whoa, I've got 20 skills. I'm level 1. That's crazy, right?
People do want the number go up. So maybe you just say, oh, you've unlocked 3 skills, you're level 3. That way people can be like, oh, the most skills that any one character can unlock is 60. So the level cap is 60 at launch, Just give people a number, a graphical representation of that, just so they can neuron activate when they level, quote unquote level up.
It's basically like
but you don't need to kill ambient monsters. I think that's such dated gameplay. In Guild Wars 2, the best way to level up, well, technically it's doing rifts, but the second best way to level up and get your mastery XP is killing ambient monsters with the XP bonus. That is so old-fashioned and it does not need to be in a next-generation MMO. Is killing like deer for XP in an end level end game zone.
Yeah, and
Collect 50 deer antlers.
it's an interesting one because if you look at how MMOs are played, guys, like modern MMOs have shifted way more towards the end game. Like leveling, for example, in your classic MMOs, that makes a lot of sense because that's a core part of the experience. You know, your old school RuneScapes, your classic WoWs. Leveling is the game, right? It's not like what you do before you get to the game. It is the game. But in Guild Wars 2, leveling is not the game, right? The game starts at level 80. Like, people often say this, right? And they're right to do so. The game starts at 80. That's when it really opens up and, you know, you get your elite specs, right? Like you get your abilities, you get your gear, right? You get access to a really wide range of content there. So, but you still do have that leveling experience at the start of it that is a little bit weird. Like it is this thing that's kind of just attached to the game. So it would be pretty interesting if ArenaNet did have a pretty different approach to introducing players to the game systems that may not require like an actual level as such. Will be interesting, I think.
It would that would introduce just one problem, right? If the initial discovery phase, let's say, either you make it so long that it kind of scares people, which I do think is a good thing. Like it's I think at the start of an MMO, it's rather better to be overwhelmed by the amount of content that you can go through than being done in a week. But then the flip side, they need to put in enough that kind of has the ability to overwhelm people with stuff to do, even in the leveling process. I'm just talking about this, rather than like bang, your level, well, you're no level. And getting all the skills. Like imagine I would assume like there's gonna be somebody going like, okay, I'm playing 24 hours straight. I've trained for this all my life, and then if
we're
they're
all doing that.
20, yeah,
Listen, if you're watching this stream, you will be full goblin at the Guild Wars 3 launch, midnight launch, energy drinks in hand. You know, poop sock, whatever you got to do, you will be there. You will be full goblining the entire weekend. It's a given.
Yeah.
You will stink on Monday.
I suppose the one thing about leveling that I think can be useful is it allows you to structure the game. And what I mean by that is, obviously, the starter zone is going to be easier. Then you'll go to the next zone. It'll be a little bit harder. Then you go to the next zone. It'll be a little bit harder. And so on and so on and so on. If you don't have, this is the max level zone, then you almost lose that guide rail in a sense. So like that is something that they'd also have to come up with a solution to on how do we make sure that players don't potentially get into something that they're maybe not ready for yet. They aren't experienced enough to have a go at. So you would lose that structure because the game would just be completely wide open at that point. But I don't know, maybe that's okay. Maybe there are other ways to actually communicate that, like in the game. You could have a guy saying, hey, look, you know, don't come here yet. You haven't unlocked enough skills, right? Like you could do something like that, right? Like it could, you know,
wasn't it like in Guild Wars 2? Like, isn't the starting area for the Norn like literally adjacent to like the level 80 area for the Norn?
It is, yeah. I think.
Yeah, it's not
like, but you know, that's the point, though, right? Like, you wouldn't go there because it's max level. Like, it will say no.
Yeah, you walked in and you were like, "Oh, this is not good," and you went back to the easy area. Yeah.
I would like. I wouldn't even put an NPC. Don't go there. Just make people experience it. Like, I assume there's going to be no permadeath or whatever. So, well, unless they want to do a hardcore sort of self-hunt, I would be all for that. But just, you know, you see a mob, you go like, okay, I stand a good chance. I've been owning literally everything I see, and then you just like, you know, you don't even do a percent of their HP as like a hit, and then you don't even know what hits you. You're just dead.
What if the mobs are all the same power level? They just have more skills and more moves in the harder zones. So yeah, all these like level 1 scales you're fighting in the starter area who like, they have a front conal attack, and as long as you stay out of their front cone, you can't possibly be hit. But then you get to the level 80 zone, and it's basically like freaking PvP, and you're like fighting for your life. Oh my god, that would be great.
It would be so good, yeah. Like I think that's something that about Guild Wars 1 that I think is really fantastic, right? Is that the enemies use the same skills as you. So obviously you do have, you know, mobs that level up in Guild Wars 1, of course. But at the end of the day, what really makes the enemies more challenging when you get to max level is that they have different abilities, right? They gain more skills. Like in the starter zones, an NPC might have like 2 or 3 skills, right? But by the time you get to the end game zones, especially if you're playing on hard mode, well, all of a sudden they've got full bars, right? Some of them even have 2 elite, they're cheating. They've got 2 elite skills, all that kind of stuff, which is really fun. I think it's a really, really great thing.
As long as there's no Iboga in the starter zone with Cry of Frustration, I'm down.
Yeah.
That would be just one skill. It's constant interrupts.
Yeah, it's good. Like, it's, you know, enjoy those mobs, enjoy those Ibogas. Imagine dying to a plant. Yeah, the level 2 boar. Look, this was kind of, you know what this reminds me of? Well, to be fair, these enemies weren't exactly particularly smart, but like, you know, early on in New World, you know, you would like venture forth and then you just encounter a bear and the bear would just destroy you, right? And you need to like actually outplay the bear to take it down. They actually made the open world in New World like way easier. Like in the beta versions, it was kind of dangerous, right? Like you'd run into random wildlife and it would take you down. It would be able to eliminate you. But it was pretty easy on release. But yeah, I mean, look, I would obviously love that kind of stuff. Now, we shouldn't get too overexcited about this because I'm pretty sure the game is probably going to be
super casual friendly.
Yeah, it's going to be fairly chill. But bear in mind, that doesn't mean that there can't be some challenge in there as well, right? Like, I think it is a mistake to say that casual players don't want a challenge, actually. I think that's kind of conflated, I think somewhat because of Guild Wars 2, actually. Like, Guild Wars 2 players don't particularly want a challenge, that is true. But I think casual players in general are completely fine with a challenge as long as they can do it on their terms. That's the really important thing. And look, if we're being real here, I think that's one of the reasons why people didn't really like stuff like Dragon's End in Guild Wars 2, is because you couldn't do it on your terms. Like, you had to be there like every 2 hours, right? You have to rely on other people to complete the content. But if it's a little bit more small scale, like you're not reliant on as many people, you can kind of approach it whenever you want. You don't need to make like a big commitment, like blocking out this amount of time to go and do something more challenging. Yeah, I think people are actually okay with it, which I think kind of goes back into the smaller player count or even like solo oriented stuff. Because yeah, people like this. Like, another example actually in, I guess in World of Warcraft is that they release these solo bosses now every season, and you just go in there and you have to beat this like boss 1v1. The one they released recently was a bit of a disappointment actually, but the one in the previous expansion was actually really, really cool. And was actually decently challenging as well, like especially early on when you didn't have that much gear. And players really loved it. Like players actually really, really enjoyed it. So I think stuff like that, like even if it does require like 1 or 2 players, I think could be really successful.
I was a hyper casual actually at the time Liadri was first introduced to the game.
Yeah,
you know,
great, right? Those are all great.
And I actually watched guides. I had to, like, I sucked so hard at the game, by the way, like pure definite, like not even casual. I was like the section before that. And I looked up so many guides.
Just trash.
Literally just trash. I looked up so many guides, so many builds other people were clearing Liadri with. That was kind of one of the best, like, fuck yeah moments for me in that, like, age of Guild Wars, basically.
What did you clear Liadri with?
Getting through that. I think back then I did it on a thief, because you could kind of cheese a little bit of the damage on dagger. And then you could still dagger 4 down the pulsing light, the pulling light, I forgot what it's called. I think I did it on a thief first, and then, afterwards I tried it on a bit of other stuff. Once I realized you shouldn't, I used to make the basic mistakes. You get hit by damage, so you dodge twice after. So you don't have dodges for the next hit coming in. And thief was kind of a nice remedy, actually, for that.
Yeah. Do you know what I played to clear Liadri for the first time? Because I was a hard Ellie main, guys. Hard Ellie main, originally. I played like Scepter, Earth, Auto Attack. That's how I cleared it. And I think the gear was weird. It was like Dire gear or Rabid gear. It might have been Rabid gear, actually. So
Condi was really good at Liadri because
it was.
The damage kept ticking.
Yeah.
You'd hit her, and then you could have to run to the next safe section. The damage was still ticking. It was quite good.
It was really good, and you could just kite the mob out, so she wasn't really able to hit you, and you just run around in circles. That was core Ellie, guys. Core Condi Ellie. Those were the days. Like, that was some good stuff. And yeah, the boss just kept ticking. Like my Earth auto attack.
I think I did it first on my core Condi Warrior.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that, maybe some, that's like the Hambo build from PvP. Like you just put down
I think
the
it was
fire
just
field.
hammer, sword, or longbow, sword.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Like I guess the mobility on the sword there is super useful as well, actually, right? So you can
It was
avoid
really
taking
good.
damage. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, we
I actually
absolutely love
just
to see
thought of
that.
something.
Oh yeah.
Do we want Guild Wars 3 to release on a Tuesday again, or like, would we want a Friday for once?
I guarantee you they're going to have early access, or not early access.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have like early access weekend for pre-orders, like they did with Guild Wars 2. So it'll probably launch on a Friday, like Saturday morning at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time, something like that.
Yeah, I think some form of a little bit of early access is pretty likely. Maybe not, but pretty likely. And well, I guess
it's desirable to help if for nothing else
balance the load,
manage
right?
the server load. Yeah,
this is like, well, outside of printing a shit ton of cash, that's also why WoW do it. Like WoW have done it for their last couple of expansions, and yeah, it does make the launch smoother, right? Like at the end of the day, like they print cash doing it, but it also does have like an upside for like the for the plebs, for the pause as well at the same time. So there is that. And to me, I was like, look, I get it. Like releasing on a weekend is kind of weird, but not gonna lie, guys, it's
so much better.
A bit of an overtime
when you're an
moment,
adult
right?
with a job.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more common, like becoming more and more common asking for like a week off for a release of an MMO. Now, I assume most people don't tell their bosses. And then it's like basically, I'm just gonna close the blinds. I've had a coworker straight up tell my boss when WoW Classic released that he needed 2 weeks off.
Yeah,
so like,
it was necessary. I had to.
It was non-negotiable. Dude had the set of balls because he was there for like 3 weeks or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You got to respect it. You got to respect the grind.
That's European employment laws for you. That would never in America. You'd just get like thrown in the trash can. Like it would be over.
So one thing that I forgot to talk about earlier on because it was related to a topic. It's actually the combat and how it relates to the player count, right? Because we know it's going to be a lower amount of players, and we know it's going to be an action combat system. And like once again, I don't want to give my opinion immediately because I feel like that's I always talk too much at the start of kind of like one of these little segments here as well. How are we feeling about the fact that the game is going full action? Like we are going deep action. So again,
I'm
towards
nervous
that new world.
about it.
Oh yeah. Why so?
I mean, I'm on record as saying that I would have preferred a very traditional tab targeting game.
Yep.
But I know I'm in the minority on that. I just think the MMO format works better that way. But okay, we're not getting that. That's fine. I think, the danger of action combat is always the skill ceiling being too high and the skill floor being too low. And it puts the developer in a situation where they have to make the content piss easy. Especially the open world content has to be like super uninteresting because the skill floor is potentially so low that the median player is completely helpless against anything that requires a pulse to beat.
Would that be so much different from tab targeting though? I mean, if we talk just open world basic mobs, are they also kind of not a snooze fest at this point, or?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I guess a good way to put it would be, like, in Guild Wars 2, a good player does, 4 times the damage of a bad player in the same gear with the same build. In like a GCD tab target game, like in classic WoW, a good player, should maybe be a third better than a bad player in terms of DPS. Yeah. And then in a full action game, I would imagine that it might, like without guardrails, it could be like 10 to 20 times better. Like if you can parry every attack and hit someone while their defenses are down, you're going to do infinite more damage than someone who can't. So that's the danger. And there'll have to be some sort of guardrails is what I'm getting at. Because the ArenaNet's not stupid enough to do that.
No, yeah. I thought if you look at everything they develop, they clearly learn every time when they release new content, right? The last triple expansion was kind of like an example of, okay, we know all of these things or stuff that people want, so we'll put them in the game. I probably think you're gonna be right that the difference between skill floor and ceiling is like gonna be massive. I would personally be more than okay with that if there are sufficient high skill floor areas in the game or mobs, and ArenaNet does not bow down to critique there. But I know that's like super easy to say of me and super hard if like your forums get inundated. I saw that in Warhammer Age of Reckoning, I think. They had like a unique class system. It was actually nuts. One of them was a spellcaster. The more spells you could cast, the higher your critical hit chance and damage. Meaning in like a world zone, you could one-shot people. But the higher your critical hit chance, the higher your backfire chance as well. So, you might be casting a firebolt, but, you're the target itself and you get one-shot. And the devs kind of bow down to basically players saying, oh, this is OP. People then went to the next class, oh, that is OP. And you ended, like, I think it was 3 months in, everything was just vanilla. Like, it was a different color of like what you were doing, but you were like almost getting the same stuff. I would be fine because I understand you gotta cater to the common denominator. I've actually said this also with the amount of content. You gotta make your game casual friendly, because casual people or casual enjoyers, and I do mean this in the largest sense, right? From somebody who doesn't necessarily have any interest in aspirational content to somebody who might have like half an hour a week. Like, they need to be able to enjoy your game, but you gotta put in content that is available to degens like me, I'm gonna say. Because those are the people who are gonna make the content for you as a company and are gonna make sure that for years to come, other people get to watch stuff, and maybe we wanna replay, because kind of like it as my first TeaTime with both of you guys, because you're like one of my top watch channels for years. Like, I think I told you already, Nike, you got me on like Renegade with the what was it, God mode Renegade back in the day. Like, that's been a good 5 years or so now, or 6 even. I know that Teapot got me on a scrapper with that goddamn you mentioning barrier per second. I don't know what, but that got me hooked. So I think that's a guide from 2021 or 2 or something. But you gotta have enough content that people who want to go the extra mile, and whether that is difficulty or time spent, like we're talking difficulty here, you do need that for a long-term successful MMO, in my opinion. It doesn't need to lock stuff from people who then are playing casually. But like, even I know I'm gonna piss off a lot of Guild Wars 2 players with this. Make it some crazy fashion that is locked behind hard content or monskins or whatever. I know that it sucks to hear, but Guild Wars has always been a service game. You can sell runs for those as well, so it becomes a gold farm. But I do think for the for long-term content, so that, like, I don't know, there are a lot of Guild Wars 2 YouTubers always popping up and going, like from, well, like I mentioned 5-6 years ago, most YouTubers I used to watch don't make content anymore, which makes sense, right? Like live hitting and everything. But also because I feel like they've kind of burnt through the content. I mean, Heisen has stopped even doing like champions. He's now done the world bosses. Now he's on to even arenas, because he's literally ran out of content. And I do think you kind of got to cater to that kind of, yeah, to that kind of content, even. Not even player base.
Well, I mean, I think it's just the volume in Guild Wars 2. Like, Guild Wars 2 doesn't really release enough content for hardcore players. Like, that's the reality. At least in PvE. Like, PvP and World Puzzle, that's kind of another thing, right? Because like the players are the content there. But I think what you're getting at here, right? What you're getting at here is there is aspirational content important? I think it is. I think it is important to have stuff like that. Like, it doesn't have to be the majority of the game. In fact, it shouldn't be, right? That would be kind of bad if it was.
Yeah, that would be that would be the opposite, yeah.
And I really think that the reality is like the way that what the test here is going to be, will ArenaNet have learned their lesson when it comes to difficulty settings, right? Because yeah, it is true that oh, look, people are going to be bad at the game, obviously, right? But I actually want to slightly challenge this assumption that it being an action game is necessarily problematic. Because, let me tell you, people are extremely bad at the traditional tab target games as well, right? If you compare like an LFR raider in WoW to a mythic raider, the difference is like colossal, right? Like it is absolutely huge, the difference in skill between those two players, right? It's gonna be that way no matter what. Like, some people don't have any interest in being a sweaty nerd in a video game, which is completely fine, right? You're gonna have players like that. You're gonna have players who do want to be a sweaty nerd. We know the solution to this. The solution to this is difficulty settings. And I think ArenaNet have some really interesting options, right? A trend that's picking up actually is world difficulty, right? This is something that kind of came from ARPGs, right? Where you have like a different difficulty level on your entire world.
Diablo 4 did it, where you would let the world like leveled up and people would be in different world difficulties.
Yeah. And well, look, think about it. Guild Wars 1 had that, basically, right? You could enter a hard mode, right, for the open world and go and do stuff out there as well. Obviously, in raids and dungeons, right, like you have difficulty things like fractal scale, right? Like raids have a normal, a challenge mode, and a legendary mode. Like that ultimately is the thing. That's the approach you want to do if you want to have this. Because yeah, people are going to suck. Like that's just the way it is. Like, you know, like new players are obviously not going to be as good as like sweaty players. Like some players are going to just be chill and just go and play the game and not really worry about playing optimally. Some players are going to be incredibly sweaty. Like the key is like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you make sure that everyone has a fun, wholesome experience? And I think open world is always good for that, because similar to how Guild Wars 2 works, like what you're going to see right now is that, let's say there's a world boss in 3. There's going to be that guy who, you know, there's going to be a bunch of noobs, right, who go there and they're like, the world boss is smushing them or whatever. But then there's going to be that guy in there who's like leaping around, like dodging every attack, doing 1 billion DPS, like at the same time. And that's kind of what you want, right? Like that in a way is the magic of this type of game where you have this open world content. Like you can be a completely new player and you can see someone doing something amazing, right? You go like, wow, that's so cool. Like, how are they doing that? Like, what build have they got? What gear have they got? In order to pull that off.
And then you hit the gear inspect.
And then you hit the gear inspect. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like I guess I'm not terribly worried about that, because yeah, there is going to be a skill disparity, but there's always going to be a skill disparity, right?
Yeah.
I think there's this idea that Guild Wars 2 is unique in this aspect, and to be honest, it like the information here is weird. Like, and like I actually admit that I was kind of part of this as well. This is super interesting. So like this kind of came from something that Mike Z said, I think, which is like the you know, the average player does 10 times less damage than a regular player. And I talked to Preach about WoW, and he was like, oh yeah, like it's like double. But the thing is, you've got to be careful here, because you've got to compare like to like. If you compare, because basically what's going on there, we're saying like a Guild Wars 2 open world Peepo versus like a Raider, right? But if you compare like a story only WoW player to a Mythic Raider, you are gonna see a similar disparity there. Like you just are, right? Like that you've got to compare like to like there. So I will definitely say I don't actually think Guild Wars 2 is particularly special in this regard when it comes to that type of gameplay. And one thing I also want to bring up, and this is something that also really excites me, and I'm curious like for your guys' perspective on this as well, because I think this is something that's broadly shared by the community. I think one of the biggest obstacles that players actually have, not just in Guild Wars 2, but modern MMOs, right, is APM, right? Like Guild Wars 2, and honestly, basically most modern MMOs are spammy as hell. And I think that physically, that's actually a really big limiting factor for a lot of people, like hitting the buttons fast enough, like actually having the actions per minute required to execute some of these builds. And I think they're not going to go that way. And again, again, my guide on thinking about this is something like New World. New World was not a high actions per minute game. It was much more slow pace, like tactical ability usage. Bear in mind, very high skill cap, actually, like very high skill cap. If there was this guy called the Duelist who would run around naked, like beating geared characters with like level 1 wooden stick, right? So you could be amazing and like absolutely crush people in PvP, like if you were playing correctly and so on. But it was a lot more tactical, a lot more thinking about when to use your ability, you know, like dodging, blocking, like managing stamina, all that kind of stuff. And I think that type of combat is actually a lot more accessible in a way, right? Because you don't have this, you just need to hit buttons. Like when I play PvP in Guild Wars 2, I feel like I beat most people purely because I press buttons faster. Seriously. Like I just walk up to someone in PvP, I send it, and they die. And it, like they probably know what to do, if that makes any sense. Like they realize what's happening, right? Like, oh, he's using this ability. Oh, I need to use this skill. But because I'm a degen and I've just, you know, I'm just tapping away at my keys like this, like a hacker man, right? I just win by default. And I think that's something that does happen in quite a lot of these games. And I'm like, APM is obviously a skill, and mastering it and practicing it like is a skill that you can refine. But I think there are other ways to express skill. And to be honest, having played some more action-oriented MMOs, I kind of like that, actually. And you know, I felt this a lot when I played Guild Wars 1, by the way. The Guild Wars 1 Prophecies hardcore, I absolutely loved it, right? It felt like every cast that I was doing was important. Like who I target, what spell I use. I was playing Monk, for context. And it felt like every cast was important. And I was thinking about, okay, right, I need to use this. Okay, what's this NPC doing, right? Like, what is the next cast coming out? What is this enemy gonna do, right? What do I have to watch out for? Like, what enchantments, what hexes are going out right now? Like, how do I prioritize these abilities? I love that type of strategic thought and decision-making, like in the midst of combat, like really thinking about what this other player is doing, what my teammate is doing, what abilities they have, what resources they have access to. That slightly more intimate, if you will, interaction with enemies and your allies feels amazing, I think. And some of that, I think, is lost in modern MMO design.
You gotta ask, though, if... You go.
I was gonna say, in regards to PvE, like, you just make the enemies more powerful, but slower. You just have the enemy that's like, you know, the 13-foot tall golem with a gigantic double-bladed axe, and instead of, you know, the thing swinging at you 100 times per minute, and you have to like avoid all of them, it just has like these big titanic attacks that are well telegraphed, and you make the difficulty, okay, I've got to dodge this one, I've got to sidestep this one, and then I can hit him with my 100 blades from behind perfectly, and that's how I beat him. And you just telegraph it, and you make them slow enough that people can learn them and dodge them. And I think that's really the easy way to do it for PvE anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think that making the game not giga fast is okay. And you know, I do think that the Souls games are some good examples here, because let's be honest, Souls games are turbo popular, right? Like everyone plays Souls games. Is everyone who plays this game like a mega nerd turbo sweat? Absolutely not. Right? And these are hard games, right? They're hard games, 100%. But because, you know, you can try again, like you can learn the patterns, learn the moves, right? Like find the openings, right? Like all that kind of stuff. I think it is accessible to players who don't necessarily play a huge amount, right? And yeah, maybe they don't finish the game. Not everyone finishes the Souls games, obviously. Like people maybe play halfway through, a quarter of through. But you know what? I think players are actually willing to rise to that challenge. I think that there is this idea in Guild Wars 2 that players will just give up and like ask ArenaNet to ArenaNet to nerf something. And there is a bit of that culture in 2, but I think there's a reason for that culture. It's because whenever people have cried about it, they've actually done it, right? Like there has been, I would say, a bit of a pandering like towards that type of playstyle, and just like ArenaNet just saying, okay, we'll just make it easy. We'll just make it insanely easy. But again, Guild Wars 3, new game, new audience, new players. It doesn't have to be that way.
I would argue you want kind of a bit of both, though. Because I would assume, like, I kind of grew up with Monster Hunter, like back on the PSP, which obviously got the game officially and everything. And I love that slow, methodical gameplay as well. Like, I think I died like 50 times before I killed my first, like, well, Rathal was a type of dragon in there. But I wouldn't blame people also who just want to spam a button. at the same time. And I don't think there's like I don't think you need to pick either.
I don't think open world is going to be that hard.
No,
like,
no.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like
no.
maybe like a veteran or an elite mob will have one move that you have to worry about, but for the most part, you'll be able to auto attack them to death.
Yeah. I mean, that's the case already with the Heart of Thorns champions, right? Like I tried to disprove somebody that you could auto attack them to death, and it's also knowing, well, if we talk about the famous frogs, for example, the only attack that you really need to dodge is the melee stab, because that one stuns you, and then the big follow-up comes, and the rest is kind of whatever. But like I could imagine that some people want like a more slower, methodical Souls-like gameplay, let's say, and then some others wouldn't mind dealing like, let's call it chip damage, right? Like dodge in, out, deal like, a tiny slash, and they'll have a different experience. I don't think we necessarily need to make people choose. But I do think it's important what you say. ArenaNet needs to stand firm or on whatever vision they have. And even if there's a vision that us three might, for example, not like, I think it would still be better if they stand firm than that they would like start flip-flopping based purely on player feedback, because that's when you start confusing people. And well, then everybody's gonna cry out then, right? Like if you notice, okay, we asked long enough about this, and they do it, and then yeah, everything will get flooded by. ArenaNet just, I assume they know, like they have to know, like whenever you look on Reddit and forums and whatever, you might actually notice quite a lot of negativity. Like, well, actually, in my review of everything on the Q&A, I had 90% positive points and I had 2 negative points, but people remember the negative ones because, well, if you have something negative to say, people will flock towards whatever forum they can instead of saying, well, I like this. Like, I mean, that post is kind of mid in and of itself. So it's just ArenaNet needs to stand firm. And even if it's a decision I wouldn't, for example, really like, I'd rather they go with the, nope, this is the way it is. Of course, not to the detriment of the game, right? Like there is right and wrong still in player statistics, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Stand firm on no char.
I think one of my favorite YouTube channels right now is Chris Wilson from GGG, and obviously well known for PoE. And I think his most recent video, I'm not sure if there's a new one actually, is, I think the title of it is something like, don't survey your players, or something to that effect, or something like that. It is, I think, unbelievably good. And I really hope that, like, ArenaNet will share that approach. Basically, it was about, look, don't ask your players what to do, right? Like, hold firm to your vision, get feedback, right? Is this fun? Is this bad? Do you like this, right? Like, are you enjoying this for whatever reason? That's great. But don't ask your players
what should we do with the next patch.
Yeah,
exactly. Vote on which feature you want to see in the next patch. No.
Yeah.
The devs should know what feature they want to make for the next patch and deliver that.
Isn't it ironic that's a new forum category on the Guild Wars forums?
Well, I think it's fine to have suggestions.
It's fine to have it, I know, but yeah.
I think it's fine to
People
have
are going to make them anyway, so you could just quarantine them there.
Yeah, and it's always good. Like, this is like the key thing. Like, players are good at identifying problems, but they're not so good at identifying the solutions, right? Because, like, to be clear, I'm not saying that ArenaNet shouldn't listen to their players. They obviously should, right? Like, if a player's having an issue, they should be listened to, right? And, like, that feedback is important in finding ways to improve the game. But I really, really hope that ArenaNet hold firm with their vision. Whatever their vision is, with 3, they should stick to it. And here's an example of this going wrong in 2. In my opinion, going away from a non-Trinity system was a bad idea, and ultimately led to a lot of the problematic design that we end up with in modern Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 was never designed to have this Trinity-esque system, but it does. And that kind of started with Heart of Thorns. Players were saying, give us a Holy Trinity, right? And ArenaNet kind of did it. I think that was a mistake. I think they should have stuck to their guns and actually had a much more combo-oriented system, right? As it was originally intended. Look, for example, on Veil Guardian, guys, do you know how some of the first kills were actually healing? Engis blasting water fields with water turrets, with a healing turret, right? Like that was actually how you sustained, because people hadn't fully established, right, like this like healer meta that ended up kind of coming through, especially in later patches in the game. And look where it got us, right? We kept going down that road, and now we have perma every boon in the game, like, and healers are ridiculously strong. And I think that's caused some really big design issues, like across the board, not only in PvE, but also in, especially in World versus World right now, I think, and also in PvE. I think that, ArenaNet should have stuck to their guns on this. They wanted to have more of a open-ended endgame, and ArenaNet made it more structured instead. And that was kind of, again, I'm not the hugest fan of that. I think that Guild Wars 2 was amazing for having this like very wide open endgame, very focused on like exploration, rather than having like a more structured approach. I think the original vision for Guild Wars 2 was amazing. And I think that deviating from that in some ways has been a mistake. Obviously, like there are other areas where they've obviously improved the game in many ways, like since the original launch of the game. But I really hope new game. I hope they really stick to their guns. Like I guess we can talk about this now. I don't want a Holy Trinity in Guild Wars 3. No. I want completely something, a very different approach. And I don't think there will be a Holy Trinity, right? Like there's no way they're saying we're redefining MMOs then adding like a Holy Trinity, right? There's absolutely
I don't think there'll be
no
a tank,
way.
but I think there will be healers. I think
It
you
would
will
be
be able to
actually-
play a healer, but I don't think there'll be a tank.
It would be actually interesting if they would tackle the healer problem with more of a. In older MMOs, you would have like your damage dealers, your tanks, your healers, but then also like a crowd controller. It would actually be interesting if they tackle it like a little bit differently. It doesn't need to be a crowd controller, because then, I mean, it's a healer in a different name. It just prevents damage. But it would be cool if they would even go away with the healer there.
Well, okay, so here's my take on the healer thing. I love how supports in PvP operated in Guild Wars 2. And I'm talking about the old school stuff, like especially stuff like Tempest, because Tempest was a support in the best sense of the word. So you were an enabler, right? You would CC targets, you would apply some boons, protection, you'd cleanse conditions, you'd heal people up a little bit, but you'd also contribute damage, right? You'd CC, you'd put like a lightning field down that was like pressuring enemies and stuff like that. Like you were almost a bit more like a MOBA support, if that makes any sense, rather than an MMO support. I think this is kind of how things are in MOBAs a bit more. It's like your support isn't necessarily just like a healer, it's an enabler that does things, right? Like it has the ability to influence the battlefield. That sounds really, really cool. I don't...
Even further back, like the original Mesmer in the dungeon meta, where the Mesmer, it still did like 70% of the DPS of like the warriors or the Ellies in the group, but it was there because it used feedback at like the perfect moment, and it made the dungeon significantly easier. And it used Focus 4 to reposition the mobs or clump them together so that you could burst them down. Like that type of support is really good. And I think this is one thing where they should go back to a more Guild Wars 1 definition of support, where you're not pressing a couple buttons and making boons that give everybody in the group 50% more DPS. You blind the enemies with skills that like blind them for a few seconds. You put a hex on the enemy that makes them miss 25% of their attacks. Or you play weapon writ and you can buff one person temporarily with a key buff that like makes them interrupt the next attack.
And you use it at a specific moment in time.
Like there's no perma buff. It's just your support has to read the battlefield and go, he's charging up for a big attack, boom, blind. Oh, my guy is going to get a window where he can attack with no thing. I'm going to put brutal weapon on him. And it's going to, 10% increases damage for the next like, DPS window.
I think
like stuff like that is so much better. Active support is so good.
That type of design is so exciting. It's so fun to play and so rewarding as well, and skill oriented. Like that would be amazing. Like I would love to see that in the game. And I feel like it's likely. Again, I don't see them going for a Trinity.
It works so good with an action combat game. Like the traditional like Guild Wars 1 blind bot that you would see in PvP, where you were literally just an air ellie who would focus on the enemy warriors, when you'd see them going to do a spike, you'd throw a blind so it would like eat their eviscerate. And then when your offense would call a spike, you'd throw a lightning orb to contribute your damage to their spike. And so like you were like this thing that still did damage, but you were also there in a supportive role defensively. I think that is just like the way to do support in an action game for sure. No boons, please.
And look, that's what I'm talking about. And well, again, that's that we're obviously kind of speculating here. We haven't heard this. We haven't heard anything like this, and we won't for quite some time. But yeah, that's certainly the direction I hope they will go in. And I think it's, again, like if anything, like relatively likely, because again, I don't see them going in a more traditional direction here. They're gonna open it up. Like you probably will be able to play a Trinity if you want. Like you can't really prevent people.
People will play tanky builds.
Oh,
like
yeah,
it'll be a play style. Like you'll be able to gear so that you don't have to dodge, but you also won't be doing any damage. Like if you want to play full Sentinels, character and go through the game like eating attacks, but also doing no damage, that will be a viable play style. Because there are people whose headcanon fantasy is, I'm going to be the tankiest tank in this game. You're going to see me standing in 5 overlapped AoEs laughing about it while everyone else is dying because I'm the man in my tanky gear. And let people play that if that's how they want to play. If they don't want to ever kill anything, let them be that if that's what they want.
But just for context, gamers, this is the kind of like Trinity player that I am. I love it when healers do damage. Right? I love it when healers have like mega utility to alter the flow of battle. I like it when tank damage matters. I think that tank damage not being important sucks. It's actually one of the things that I kind of miss about Guild Wars 2. Because in old Guild Wars 2, you tank on DPS chrono, right? Like that's what you would do, right? And the difference between a trash chrono and a good chrono was doing 100% quickness and alacrity and doing damage at the same time while tanking. So doing something like tanking Doom while also mastering your throughput was a huge skill expression. Not really a thing anymore, right? Like that concept doesn't exist because, you're a healer, you're doing like 2k DPS, right? Like that's where you apply your boons. You don't really have that type of role compression in the game anymore nearly as much. So yeah, like that's the kind of thing that I find really, really, really engaging. To be honest, like in that type of environment. And I think honestly, it's where Guild Wars 2's combat system thrives. It's where I think a more action combat system is going to thrive as well, is having that kind of more hybrid approach. Again, like New World is a good example. I think peak New World was when it was a bit more hybrid and it was less Trinity. Like they ended up going very Trinity actually, as it turns out. But yeah, I think it will be, the original version where it was a bit more hybrid, I think was actually really, really fun to play. Like in that action style system as well.
I mean, even if they go with a healer, I would make sure to also just, like in Guild Wars 3, make the heal throughput way less than what we have now. Because now you can eat a hit that literally leaves you at 1 HP, and just about every healer in the game will get you up there back like 100% in the next few seconds, right? Like imagine you still have a healer, but all they're applying is a version of regen, like ideally not a perma boon as Nike mentioned, but like a way to apply regen to people. But then when they don't need to apply regen, they are indeed contributing in various different ways. So even if they go with a healer, just tune it like way down to what we know at the moment.
And also, you'll just turn on your smiter's boon and you'll be smiting the enemy and healing people.
Yes. And also, let me actually stick up for the casuals here. I saw a couple of comments talking about how, not very casual. That doesn't sound very casual friendly. This is going to be too hard for people. Let me actually stick up for the casual players. I do not agree with the equivalence casual equals unskilled player. I don't think that that's actually a fair thing to say, actually, about casual players. Casual players maybe play less, right? Perhaps aren't as invested in min-maxing their character or this or that or whatever. But no, I think that players with all investment levels will learn how these abilities work. And I think, players will actually get the hang of this stuff and will engage with the system if there's a good reason to do so and if it feels fun and rewarding to do so. I think Guild Wars 1 is actually a good example
Yeah, and
of
we're
this, right?
talking about aspirational content here, to be
Yeah.
clear. Like, we're not talking about like you're gonna have to know all this crap to succeed in the open world. You're gonna have to perfectly time this and perfectly time that. I think when I'm saying things like that, I'm talking about end game content, not necessarily anything to do with open world.
Want to maybe just reply to Maliran's? I don't like mean healing needs to be like a regen, right? Like what Teapot and Nike mentioned, like healing through damage, but just not a like if you play a warrior and like your whole team stands in the bad and they press 1*5, the whole like the whole standing in the bad is erased. If that would just take a couple of seconds longer, then if you stand in the bat, the next few seconds in combat start to matter more as well. Like you might want to try take a little bit less damage. Like just, maybe even drop your DPS for the sake of surviving, because then you'll get to live and you continue DPS. But like just a way that is where the healing is not as overtuned as what I would call it right now in Guild Wars.
Yeah, it trivializes the action combat. Like you can watch new raiders raid and they dodge nothing and avoid nothing because the healing is so powerful that the people get, unless it one-shots them, they get healed back to full instantly, or they just get res and then get healed back to full instantly. That is, problematic. You want it to be where, if they take a hit, they are at half HP for at least a little while. Maybe they take a big hit and they got onto 1 HP, and then the healer blows like half their bar to get them to half health, and then it's like, oh, okay, now they just have to be super careful because the next hit will take them out. Like, just tune it so that, yeah, exactly. So it's not like instant full health for everybody in the party.
I would also say, because I know that there's a casual means, for me, a casual doesn't mean unskilled at all either, by the way, because I've met people who, and even if you look at like time spent in the game, I've met people after 1 month that like just blow, they're not ready to join Snow Crows, but they're getting there already. But I would have to say, like, there's a bit of community perception maybe also going on. Like, one of the fun things I did early on, and this was right before Harbinger even came out, but then we did it again after Harbinger came out. Wing 1 through 4 with minion monsters only. So, it kind of sucks, of course, because, a Scourge bar starts to look very bleak and team stability and Aegis of Time looks atrocious. But it was not only some of the most fun, but also some of the most chill raids I've ever done. Like, yeah, they took longer than my Monday 2.5-hour full clear, but at the same time, like that is... I think actually Guild Wars struggles in a way, and whenever we have that discussion, and I hate both terms, by the way, casual versus elitist, because people add a connotation to it. Like in my life, I just have assholes and no assholes, and basically, it doesn't really matter what your skill is. You can be not an asshole, or you can be an asshole about stuff. I think one of the, and I don't blame the players here per se, by the way, but I think one of the biggest difficulties in Guild Wars 2 is finding your people. Whenever I suggest the all minion monster thing, there's usually more people that want to run it than like I can take in a run. And I also, I do them once every one or 2 years. So there's that. If there was a way to find more your people where you go with hey, these guys actually, they don't give a fuck about the meta. And every Monday they clear 4 raid wings, which I also coincidentally need for my armor. I think a lot of like the player perception of because there's always the us versus them can actually be solved if there's a way to find your people. And I don't think there's a good way now, at least not in the game. And I understand people not wanting to go to Discord communities. Like I told myself, I'll never join more than 5 Discord servers, and like my list is becoming a library at this point, to the point I don't check most Discords anymore. But if there's a way in Guild Wars 3 to find your people in how you want to do content, and I hope that is in-game, not a third-party tool, I do think a lot of like we talked about like a couple of contentious times at the start of Heart of Thorns. I know like here on stream when Dragon's End came out, that was quite the fireworks show as well. And I do generally think if there was a way to find your people there as well with Dragon's End, a lot of more people would have cleared. in a way that, or on more agreeable terms to themselves at least. Even if they want to keep that split us versus them, I don't really care about that, but yeah.
No, I agree. I think a lot of the tensions and honestly a lot of the difficulties actually with Guild Wars 2's community, like this, us versus them stuff, it is because of a lack of social structures, right, within the game. Like, the LFG isn't good. It's hard to find people who you kind of align with, right? You end up all kind of like smushed together. And that's caused a lot of tensions throughout, throughout the game's history. Like, and that, funnily enough, that and a lack of information transparency. If we go back all the way to core Guild Wars 2, you know why the whole like hardcore versus casual thing started? It's because people were like asking for achievement points.
Yeah.
Like to get into
I couldn't get into dungeons early on because I didn't have 5k AP.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
And I played a necro.
The way you fix that is by making sure that there are actually good ways for players to basically go, oh, right, like we're looking for the same experience, right? Like this is the really important thing. You must have good ways for players to have the experience that you want. And this goes both ways, by the way. It should be easy for a player to find other players to learn with, right?
Where it gets hard is you build the game so that it can be solo friendly, and then you hit something like Dragon's End where all of a sudden you need a community. And it's like, oh my God, how do I find a community? It's like, well, you should have found the community when you started playing 5 years ago. That's when I found my community 2 months, or I found my community a month after the launch of the game, and I've been in that community since then. So that's how I did it, because the things I was trying to do in game required a group. So I was forced to seek out community and make friends and find a community. If the whole time you're playing the game, you're like, well, I don't have a guild, I don't need a guild, and then all of a sudden you're faced with, oh my God, I need a guild to do this thing. Now you're going to be scrambling, and that's like a much tougher thing to do. So how they square that circle with, oh, this is a game that's very solo friendly, and then also pushing people to actually find a community at the same time.
You kind of make a good point there where you say, I went out and found the community. I used to watch a lot of Grawl in World of Warcraft. He's like a giga healer, but the dude is also entertaining as fuck. And I know he kept getting a question like, yeah, how can I get into high M+? He was at that point an M+ only runner. And like he said, like any other person, you run some keys together and you say, hey, this was a good run. Can I add you to my DMs? And then the next time you DM that person, that is maybe one thing that players should take a little bit of agency for as well.
Yeah, it is a cultural thing.
And yeah. Like, ask people. Like, it's actually how I found my first static as well. Like, yo, I kind of like this. If you need a fill, hit me up. And then the next week they did need a fill, and then suddenly we were 2 years after. But like that starts with yourself, of course, not with ArenaNet spoon feeding you any type of finder.
Yeah.
No, that said, there should still be a looking for guild finder in game, 100%, like a community finder.
Yeah.
But like they're not going to force you to do it. You still have to search it out yourself, and that's on you. And if you don't do it, then I mean you can't blame anyone else.
I think there is a definite important point though to be made about culture. The Guild Wars 2 culture is weirdly antisocial, I'd say. Like, I think you bring up a really good point about contrasting it with WoW. And yeah, I mean, look, I've played WoW a lot, and yes, it is like that. Like, you just go, oh, you want to slam a couple more? Oh, is your guild recruiting? Right? Like, that stuff happens a lot, right? And I will say, particularly as you go to the harder content, it happens more, to be clear. When you're in farm content, it doesn't happen as much, but it does happen. I have had people like add me, oh, yo, you want to do some more of those? Hey, can I add you? I want to do like, more keys or whatever. And even in raid, it's like, oh, yo, like, do you guys like do this often? Do you run like regular raids? Right? Can I join? Right? And especially as you start to get into the harder content, like your mythic pugs and your higher keys, yeah, you get a lot of social interaction there. There's a lot of networking that goes on. It's all about making contacts and like knowing people and getting into all the different like social structures and stuff like that in that type of content. So I do think it is important that that does get established in 3 rather, because yeah, in 2 it is very lacking. Like it's very closed off, right? Like you don't really have that type of culture within the game that kind of facilitates this type of social environment. So there is a little bit of responsibility, I feel like, with the players and with community leaders going into 3 as well.
I also want to say for people, because I've been on the other side, right? I went back to Guild Wars 2 after like a burnout and clinical depression and all that shit. And I played Guild Wars 2 again because I didn't really want to talk to a lot of people. And this is very solo friendly at the end of the day. Like I am doing way better, of course, but like the way I actually got in contact with you, Teapot, was like, I figured, okay, I want to host like a type of lore master game show type of thing. And I figured, well, I'm a DM like a couple of creators, and for sure none of them are gonna reply because nobody knows me, and I would still argue like not a lot of people know me, but I know when I said like to somebody, I even messaged Teapot, maybe he replies, maybe not. I also messaged ArenaNet, for example, and you know what the crazy thing is? Like they all replied and they were all friendly, and if you see that happens a couple of times, you start getting less stressed DMing people. But like, no, I've been there as well, where you're scared to reach out, you kind of don't want to chat, and you just want to get your content done. Although then you can also make the choice to not do it, right? But like, just don't be afraid every now and then to say like, even a hi, bye, and thanks or something at the end of the run. People will start like, they'll start interacting.
Yeah, 100%. And there is a great point here about the systems kind of informing this, like from Hitbutton. I think it is 100% true, and that's kind of what Phandrel was talking about there as well. But yeah, like systems are important. Like you want to make this stuff easy and you want to make it rewarding, right? Like interacting with other players should be good, right? Like I think that's one of the pillars of Guild Wars 2 is that you're always happy to see another player. And, I imagine that will be the same in 3 as well. And yeah, like having a strong community, like with community leaders and yeah, like people like us who talk about the video game and not streamers, by the way, people who lead guilds, people who run pugs, right? Like people who do the spreadsheet stuff, like figuring out like the optimal way to do this, right? Like it's not just one type of community figure or community leader. It's all of it. Like having all of that together, I think really contributes to a healthy and social community. Feels good. Okay. We've been talking for quite a while now. There was something else I wanted to talk about.
Card game.
Yeah, it was something before card game. We kind of glossed over the fact that there was the portfolio from the ArenaNet dev who is working on Guild Wars 3 a little bit. Like, we're not really gonna show it on stream, but I mean, look, I guess we can like very quickly talk about it before we talk about the card game. Because look, basically there's a dev who's working on Guild Wars 3, I think, guys, and in the portfolio it just shows a bunch of action combat stuff. It looks pretty cool. Okay, that's that's it.
At a point he duels a 1v1 thing with a lot of movements, like where he jumps in between 2 blocks near the middle of the clip, I think.
It's based.
If that is a combat we'll have in Guild Wars 3, oh my god, is it gonna be fun though.
Yeah, it's gonna be Super Smash Brothers Brawl or whatever. It's gravity-based momentum combat. That's what they said. Smash Brothers. Get ready, guys.
Yeah, and to be clear, guys, like the portfolio that has been uncovered,
Okay.
none of it is Guild Wars 3, right? Like none of it is like Guild Wars 3 work in progress or anything like that. But the reason why it's interesting is because it's in Unreal, it's action combat, and it is a dev who's working for ArenaNet, right? Which, they're going to be working on 3, right, at the end of the day.
It shows what they've made at least.
Yeah, it shows what they've done before. It gives you a bit of an inkling into how it's going. And yeah, it's ultra high mobility, ultra leaping around, like dashing, like smashing into things, right? Like all that kind of stuff. Which I think is pretty cool, right? Like, it was almost giving me a little bit of Warframe in there, almost like a little bit of BDO, almost, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff, I'd say. You should go check it out. Maybe I'll link it in the description if I show mercy to all of you. Don't get overhyped though, because again, it's nothing to do with Guild Wars 3 specifically.
Join the Guild Wars 3 Discord.
You can do that.
And you'll see it in the Breadcrumbs channel.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, you could do that. Embrace the breadcrumbs. Enjoy the breadcrumbs.
Read the manifesto. Consume the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. So do we want to do card game? I think we want to do card game, right? I feel like we've kind of done the Guild Wars 3 thing.
Do we want to do the card game or the first comment under the video?
I mean, look. So, Mistbound, Guild Wars card game. Important note, not made by ArenaNet. It's the Guild Wars IP, but this is being developed.
Most important note.
This is being developed by NC, right? Is who's developing this. And basically what's going on here, it is going to be released in China, first of all. So unfortunately, it is not going to be easily accessible. You'll be able to play it with a VPN probably or something like that. Like, I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but you can probably get on it, right? At some point somehow. And I think if it does well, then there is a potential for a Western release as well. But I'm not gonna lie, looks a bit weird. Overall, I would say, like, gameplay. Look, I'm not a super big card game guy. Looks all right, I guess. I actually like that it, you know, in some of the footage they show, it kind of has a positioning element. Like, you place your cards down and they have like AoE effects and you can like pull cards around. That actually sounds really cool. Like, I like that. It's a bit more, I guess, dynamic perhaps than some other card games that currently exist on the market. But it does have a weird look to it visually, right? Like, there's been some accusations of AI usage in the trailer. It looks super weird, to be honest. Now, I am obligated to say that they did clarify, or at least they posted a response to this, that there was no AI used in the trailer. Look, listen, you should look at it and make up your own mind, I guess. It definitely looks very uncanny and weird at some points there. So, like, if that's a stylistic choice, I guess it is what it is. But I think I've kind of rambled. I've done enough, like, intro, right, on the topic. It's like, what are we thinking about this? I feel like Nike, you might know, because you play Magic, right? So maybe you can give us some insight. Like, what's your take on, like, seeing some of the gameplay, some of the ideas, all that kind of stuff, like, and the trailer as well?
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna slam this game because it's not for us. The most important thing to remember, guys, is it's not for us. The game was announced at 2 a.m. European time and 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. But it was announced right early in the morning. 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. China time or Korea time. Obviously, the game is for them. It is not for us, which means it's probably going to have monetization practices that none of us would be comfortable with. And that's kind of the long and short of it, is I probably would not play it unless somehow it had a fair monetization scheme, which, look, it's a Billy game made by NCSoft. No offense, it's gonna be monetized in a way that's completely alienating to a Western audience, and that's the long and short of it. And hopefully it's good. Maybe the gameplay will be even good, but I think the monetization will smoke you, even if the gameplay is good.
To be fair, they'd probably adjust it for the West if it gets released in the West, though, right? Like, yeah, certainly this version is probably going to have some questionable stuff in it, obviously, like, because that's just, I don't know why, but
they
that's
won't
just the
have
way
dusting. That's for sure.
But yeah, I think it's like very important that it could end up going there. And also, wait, to be clear, it's not the I'm not sure if we don't know like the details of this, but it's not necessarily revenue for ArenaNet, guys. The coming out of this game. This game is not, like, ArenaNet are not involved in making this game. They've obviously licensed the IP, right? So the IP is being used. But bear in mind, guys, NC own ArenaNet. Like, it's worth noting, like, they can do whatever they want with it, right? Like, at the end of the day,
they made them an
right?
offer they couldn't refuse for the IP.
To be honest, they might be positioned somewhat very unique, because I agree with the take. Currently, it's not for us. Although we could imagine what it would like to us, because we have a lot of card games. But it is about a franchise that has a incredible following in the West. So I again, like, we don't know what happens, but I do think that this amount of Guild Wars fans that seem to be, and like, I am like guilty myself, right? Like, I could show them actually.
Oh, here we go.
I have two of every of the games of the original.
There we go.
I gobble everything up ArenaNet has ever sold, and maybe even NCSoft stuff, because I used to play a lot. Exactly. I played a lot of City of Heroes Villains, also an NCSoft game. But I do think that the ArenaNet franchise fans might end up being a push big enough, assuming that the card game doesn't tie in the first 2 years in the East. I do think like the audience could actually be there for a surprise, quote unquote, fourth Guild Wars game, or a Guild Wars inspired game at least. But then heavily reworked for the West at least.
I'm just pessimistic. I have to say, like, I want them to do well in everything they do, but I'm very pessimistic about it. I just feel like the state of the industry is if you release a MOBA, it has to be the best MOBA or else don't bother.
Yeah.
And if you're releasing a card game, it has to be better than Hearthstone or don't bother. Now, you can say the same thing about an MMO, but I think the MMO genre can absorb multiple players. And I think, there's Coke and there's Pepsi. You can have, but I think that within like card games, there's already Coke, Pepsi, RC Cola, Sprite, and Dr. Pepper. And and unless you're somehow going to like push one of those out, I just don't think that that's going to be feasible.
Can I maybe flip the script? Instead of thinking this needs to be a hit in the West, so it needs to be the best, how many customers would they realistically need to spend money on that game? Like, if it is within a doable number of active Guild Wars players, I can still see this happen somehow. Like, I don't know, if they can run break even on, like, let's say 50k players, which you would assume has like maybe 1% or 0.5% of whales, and then also 15% free to play. If like I can imagine if they if they see, okay, there is a potential, I could, like, I don't know why, but I feel like it's just the positioning of like Guild Wars in itself already being established. Even though like the card game might be ass, right? Like, I don't know for you guys. If it releases in the West, I'm playing it, even if I hate it.
I'll give it a chance.
Like, I'll definitely give it a go.
Like, if it releases in the West, it'll have systems like dailies where you can get like a certain amount of progress every day for free, and you're encouraged to play like 3 games a day to get your like free pack, and then that's all that you have to play, really. So I mean, if it does release in the West, it'll be worth trying. It's just I'm so skeptical that if you're a Chinese player who's into this genre, why isn't Hearthstone or MTG Arena enough for you? Yeah. Like, I just don't, unless you're a Guild Wars fan in China, which, there are some, people play World v World, they're pretty hardcore, so, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when it comes to these trading card games, like, I felt like the IP is super important. And I guess, like, my major concern is that I'm not sure.
They should go more Coomer.
Well,
right.
I don't know, like, I'm just not sure if the Guild Wars IP is, like, that heavy hitting. Am I crazy on that?
Yeah, you'd think like a Lineage card game would have been more popular over there, right? Because like that's like their core audience already.
Yeah, because like when I think about like why Guild Wars 3 is hype and why a lot of players are kind of looking at it, I feel like it's not because it's a Guild Wars game. It's because it's an ArenaNet game, right? And the studio has a very strong reputation, I think, for delivering like some good games, like, and having some good business practice. Like, I'm not sure if the Guild Wars IP is necessarily doing a lot of heavy lifting all this. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. I'm curious what people think about that. But like, that's my sense on it as well, right? Because like obviously like here in the Guild Wars 2 universe, like obviously like we're big fans of the IP, but I'm not sure if it's super heavy hitting compared to like other IPs like Warcraft IP, League of Legends IP, right? Whatever like they've got going on there. Like obviously all of the stuff that's going on with Magic, Hearthstone, right? Like those are like some heavyweight stuff, but I'm not so sure about like the Guild Wars universe specifically, if that's going to like really attract a lot of players.
I mean, it also depends on what the incentive for ArenaNet would be to market it, right? Like imagine they get a 25% kickback, like a royalty or whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden, we might all be seeing an event to play the game at the end of the day, and I mean like in the most benevolent way, like you can play like free to play. They don't make you spend on packs and whatever, because I like if it comes out in the West, I am kind of scared for what the cost is. If you look at like a Hearthstone pack, costs like $2.5 to $3 or something for 5 booster cards. So like I'm kind of like terrified if it comes out, because I will want to play it. But if ArenaNet gets the right incentive, I don't know. Like I don't want to. I don't think it's like a 50-50. It's probably closer to a 10 it's coming and 90 it's not coming. But I really don't want to like just say it's okay. 10% is maybe the definition of unlikely, but somehow I can somewhat see this work, given the right incentives for all parties involved at least.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on the 10% chance it makes it to the West, 90% that it doesn't. You know. I think it'll be a success if it's still alive a year from launch in China.
Yeah, because we looked this up like before the stream, right? Like the MOBA they did with the Guild Wars IP, it was what, 5 months?
Master X Master.
Yeah. It lived for 5 months before it died. And look, I'm not saying that's going to happen with this. Like I'm look, obviously, you know, I'm not like wishing for the downfall of any game, right? Like that's, you know, but I am struggling to see it. Like, it's going to have to be amazing, right? It's going to have to be like the sickest card game ever with the best, I guess, combat system imaginable. Like it better be really, really good, or I'm struggling to see it kind of burst onto the market, especially because look, I even pointed this out in my Guild Wars 3 video. I can't believe they call it Mistbound. Like, that actually blows my mind. Like, when Riftbound exists, which is obviously Riot's, you know, League of Legends card simulator, that is crazy to me, right? Like, it is. How did you put it, Phandrel? I think you said something like it's one bad SEO, like away from like, you know, yeah, like for
maybe
for
it's not
basically
so
like
close
promoting
in
the other thing, right?
Maybe the Chinese translation is not like so similar.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
Like, maybe it's only similar in English.
Yeah. It's that's not. I feel like I have to say this about the trailer. Why did what they have text, right? But no voiceover for the trailer. What is up with that?
I bet there's a Chinese trailer.
Well, exactly.
We should find the Chinese trailer and see if there's voice.
Yeah, maybe there actually like some voice acting on the Chinese version. Is there actually
Chat, find it. Yeah, Chat, go to Billy and find the Billy trailer.
Yeah, it's just like I don't understand. It's super weird.
You know what the problem actually is with the trailer, and why I think we all kind of feel uneasy about this being tied to Guild Wars? Apart from literally, it's called Mistbound Guild Wars card game, so we have Guild Wars there. We have very specially animated characters. Let's call it like that. You got to believe what the Mistbound people are saying, right? But yeah, exactly. But it doesn't have the ArenaNet like secret sauce all over it. It's just like a little bit of a husk of like, well, this is like the characters, you know, but it's actually got nothing to do with how we experience Guild Wars. It doesn't even look like it. Like, it looks very... you almost get the uncanny valley effects when you see the animated characters at this point. And I think that's actually the issue that we have with the idea as well of this trailer, at least.
You also just don't want it to damage the brand. Like, you can put out a product that's so bad it damages your brand. Like, that's not entirely impossible.
I mean, it is telling that it's not on Guild Wars 2 or 3.com, right? It is like, I saw the post because of Reddit. Like they are also not really doing anything to put this front and center in any way possible. Because technically this could be we have another easy news post. So they're at least not doing that either.
Yeah. Again, I would not be surprised to not really see ArenaNet talk about this too much, because again, they're not making it, right? Like, I think that is really important.
It's not having a Western release, and ArenaNet's main audience is in the West.
Exactly,
so why would they spend a lot of energy on it?
So they're not really going to go near this like anytime soon, and that doesn't mean that they necessarily think it's terrible or anything. It just means that it doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to be in proximity to it. Like, given the fact that, yeah, it's not for a Western audience right now. And they're not. Oh, wait, someone has actually verified this. The Chinese trailer has no voiceover. That's just bizarre, right? That's so weird. Because presumably the game itself will, right? Like when you play a card, right, you'll probably have a voice line. Like when you tell a card to do something, right, there'll be a voice line. It's so, like, this whole trailer is just, I have so many questions.
It doesn't really make sense.
I have so many questions about, like, this Mistbound trailer. Because, you know, it does obviously, like, have that Guild Wars 2 art style to it, but there's just so many things about it that are strange. Right, like with how weird like Casimir and Air look, right? Like the no voice acting, like the weirdly anime text, right, that they put into it, right? It's very weird.
I've already mentioned this before. Like there are also some random characters I feel, and you've mentioned, well, this is probably, for example, the lady wielding the 2 pistols, just a pistol thief.
Yeah.
But like if you go to 154, for example, in the trailer, you see like a dude wielding a dagger at least, and then a chain in a prison. That like I feel like if this is a reference to whatever Guild Wars is, they could have also put a. There is more than one thief or assassin in the Guild Wars lore, right? Like there's more than Nika, so like there are like those elements just feel so off to me as well.
Well, I don't think every similar to Hearthstone, right? You just have like generic characters sometimes, right? Like not every card is going to be a lore character, is it? It's going to be you have like your commander type thing, like you pick your
Nika, sometimes right? It's just a goblin that you summon.
Yeah, you just summon like level 2 goblin, right? Like it's not really. I think that's what's going on with like that rapid fire one. It's just like, oh yeah, this is like a thief that uses pistol. And
those skills might also be like skill cards that aren't representative of the character doing it, but the action the character's taking.
Yeah, what they're doing, yeah.
Yeah, but like, why not put a actual character that we meet in the game? Like we've met like hundreds, or if not like more than 1,000 at this point. Now it could be because it's what they mentioned it, right? Pre-release footage, the actual game might differ. But I don't know if there would be a thief. I would like, put Keith in there. Although they might want to save her as a commander or something.
Wait, hold on. Delta is linking something really funny. Is this how it appears on Bilibili if you translate it? It's Intense Battle, Big Name Heroes.
That's a good name. Oh. They should go with that for the Western release.
Dude, 38,000 people already made reservations.
Yeah, well, maybe it's going to pop off.
It's a success. Yeah, it's a hit.
And that sounds like
they want intense battles.
Start. Yeah, they want intense battles with big
palm
name
sweaty,
heroes.
mom spaghetti.
Yeah.
Get Ritlock and then drop a confetti.
Look,
easy.
All the Char lovers are, gonna go play this.
Now there's 2 games. The amount of games you can play a Char in has doubled.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Something.
Here we go. Look. Okay, a new way to play card games. Try it yourself. Officially licensed by ArenaNet, developed by NC, and exclusively distributed globally by Bilibili Games. The dynamic card battle game Guild Wars Heroes is now officially open for pre-registration in China. Click here to pre-register. Intense battle of big name heroes. Big names are here. Heroes join us. Invite your friends. That's good. I mean, look, that's a pretty good name, I guess. Oh, it's interesting.
If you Google or you use your auto translate on your browser to the on the Billy Game website, Delta linked. There's also like some. Don't forget to pay attention. So probably follow the official account of Fighting Big Brother Hero. So
Fighting Big Brother Hero. I mean, there you go. Yeah. Then it is what it is. Like that you can do that. I mean, look, I will say this. I will definitely try it at least once for the content, right? Like we have to try it for the content at least. It will be somewhat entertaining to give it a go, I guess.
Send it.
Yeah. But I guess that's all I really have to say about it. Like, we don't really know that much. There's a couple of details about like how the gameplay works, but I mean, we're all familiar with how these games work, right? Like, it is a card game. It might be good, I guess, but it definitely looks very, very strange. And to be honest, like, they're already off to a very, very bad start, right? Like, just the fact that there's, and again, look, I will, in the interest of fairness, let's say that it just looks like AI and they haven't actually used it, they're already off to a bit of a rough start, at least when it comes to like the reception in the West, right? Like from people who play Guild Wars, right? And people who are invested in Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1. It's off to a rough start. Let's put it
it's
like
actually
this.
Surprising that there was any coverage of it in the West. Like PC Gamer magazine, like Talk to Colin. And it's like, why?
Weird, right? It's not coming.
Like, like if I was ArenaNet and they called, I would have been like, and they were like, hey, can we talk to Colin about this game you're launching? I would just be like, well, our official statement is that NCSoft is launching it and we just licensed the IP and talk to them. Like, this isn't launching in the West. I don't know. It's very weird. It would be like a some like electric vehicle launching in China, and they like call the CEO of like the Ford Motor Company to like have him talk about it. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, definitely a very, very strange opener. Not entirely sure what to make of it, to be completely honest. But I'll tell you what, this has been quite the tea time. I think it's time to wrap things up. Like a big part of my end game here was to make the show long enough so that Phandrel couldn't watch the football. Feels good. He has been denied.
Thank you.
We'll have to watch the replay. But yeah,
oh, dude, don't say that.
Yeah. That's just the way it is. And I think it's probably time for us to kind of get out of here. I think I will come back after this, guys. We'll do a little bit of an after show, and I'll probably do some like React slop to Mistbound or something, I guess. And we'll watch the trailer and look at the very weird, mildly slop Casimir and Air, I guess. Like a little bit of slop reacting to slop, guys. Okay, like that. I know you guys love that stuff. But yeah, I think it's time to kind of wrap things up here for this tea time. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you guys have enjoyed this tea time. We're fully back, guys. I've already got another tea time scheduled for next week, by the way. I am turbo organized. We've got Bloom. Bloom was supposed to be here today, but he couldn't make it. Bloom is on next week, okay, to talk about all that's going on, and I'll probably gather up some other gamers there as well. But this is the end for this tea time. I hope you have enjoyed it. I want to give a massive thank you to the viewers and indeed to my wonderful guests who will now introduce themselves. You can learn more about them with !hosts. And I'm going to give the first meme here as well. Phandrel, tell us a little bit about yourself. Okay, it's time to sell out. It is time to be your own advocate here and tell us exactly what you're about. Tell us why you think Guild Wars 2 is dead.
Okay. I'll actually tell you what is in my Twitch description. I just want to farm, but here we are. No, jokes aside, it's literally all I like doing, man. Like, I like... So, despite advocating for so much aspirational content, my favorite content is just doing the same gameplay loop over and over and over again, assuming that all of the content around is good. But yeah, other than that, I do some weird shenanigans. Every now and then I join like crazy people. Like whether it's to talk to you guys, I don't mean crazy in the bad sense, but in the good sense. I think I've done a couple of challenges as well where, I joined 4 Fractal Pros. I kind of made that into a video. I joined one of the best raiding guilds as well for a day. Of course, like they didn't want to keep me around because, like, let's be fucking real. I am not the 1%. But yeah, no, I just want to thank you, man. And, when the card game comes out, guys, there's like a sub button to Teapot. Already start subbing so he can be the whale and I'll do the free-to-play version of this. Ooh. Other than that, keep dooming. Guild Wars 2 kinda dead, but not really. We'll be fine in the Hall of Monuments. And then kinda dead on Guild Wars 3 release, but not really, because after 3 months, everybody will be doing Drakkar again. And maybe I'll host the Eparch meta or something. But yeah, thank you all.
All right, and once again, gamers, there'll be links in the video description here on TeaTime, and you can do !hosts to find out. I fixed the command, and it feels damn good. And back for the first time, actually, on the new series of TeaTime, Char Enjoyer, Season 3 of TeaTime, Char Enforcer Nike is also here.
Yep, I have a YouTube channel where you can watch videos about Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2, and Guild Wars 3 topics, all Guild Wars. Yeah, and on my Twitch channel, I mostly do Zwift racing. If you're into, competitive bike racing on the internet, you can watch that. And if you really want to support me, what you can do is go open up Steam and search for Tamer King of Dinosaurs, which is a video game that my company has recently published.
Yep.
And it will both entertain and titillate you. Everyone in chat will be titillated that plays it, and it's very high concept for that genre, and I think you guys will enjoy it. And buy it, play it, and leave a positive review. Thank you.
And it will be taking players away from Guild Wars 2 and 3, I believe. Like, it's the main competition.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Shark?
Yeah.
You can kill dinosaurs, but, you know.
Well, there you have it. Definitely check all that stuff out. And, of course, you're already here on this channel. TeaTime is going to be back. Okay, we are going to be doing, hopefully, weekly-ish tea times, so be sure to subscribe and follow and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you have any interesting comments, you should also leave them. Let us know what you think about these topics. Like, I actually really enjoy reading what everyone has to say about all the things we talk about. Like, are you feeling good about Guild Wars 3? Are you feeling good about the future of Guild Wars 2? What about Guild Wars 1? I don't know. You tell me. Same thing with the card game. Are you excited? You excited to play the card game if it ends up coming to the West? Are you going to be booting up that VPN and having a go? I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, follow, subscribe, come back and watch, use referral link. You guys know the drill at this point. That's going to do it for now. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you to my guests. And once again, links to both of them will be in the description. So you should click them. You should subscribe. You should game. And yeah. Just have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, day thing. And we'll see you next time. Take it easy, gamers. We're out of here.